Today we have Sean and Dani Shearon is how you pronounce your last name, right?
Yep.
They own Prevail Strength and Fitness, right?
Right.
I want to make sure I'm getting my words right. I was looking it up earlier just to make sure I got all the words correctly. And I was actually reading Strength and Fitness. It was like, I feel like that does a very good job of explaining what you guys have built. Is a way for or a gym, and not just a gym, but a community where people can not just get in shape, not just look better, but legitimately be stronger and overall just healthier. Like, I feel like the people that go to Prevail that we get to see out in the community or in our doors are just generally healthy people.
Yeah.
I think you guys do a great job of being very science-based, even for the brand new gym goer. I think you guys do a fantastic job with that of being very intentional with your programming. I know I've gotten to talk to you guys probably not nearly enough about the overall program and the onboarding and everything. And it's you can tell there's a lot of thought that's gone into this, and I know you guys have a ton of knowledge within this space, and it's just cool to see that you guys are applying it in a way where someone that has been working out for 2 decades can come in and benefit from it. But someone that has never stepped foot in a gym can come in and know that they're doing it the right way as well. And the community that you've built is really cool. I think the fact that you guys help out with nutrition and you live the lifestyle yourselves, and you take on new challenges, and you do the Moab. Would love to talk about that a little bit more. But the community that you've built is really, really cool. It's if when people come in our doors and say that they're working over at Prevail, there's almost an automatic, like, we know we're going to get along with these people.
And to kind of add on to that as well, I think like a word that works really well when thinking about the way you guys do things, it's like Kevin was talking about and touching on, it's very educational, and I feel like on top of being educational, by being educational, I think this is like where we share a very similar mindset to you guys, is like empowering our customers, our clients, not withholding and like trying to, I'm the master, I'm the know-it-all, and you have to come to me for help. It's like, no, I'm going to empower you for life, whether you move across the country and you can't visit with us anymore. Like, I'm going to empower you for the rest of your life to make better nutrition choices, to make better workout choices, to make better life choices in general.
Yeah, appreciate that. We just put all that on the website now. So
well, we've got to record it.
That'll be the first pop-up as soon as you get there. It's nice to hear those things, because those things have been something we focused on for the entire duration of building Prevail. Those are all things that we were leading. Every step we moved forward with the business, those are things we were trying to achieve through all of our trial and errors and things like that. Certain words, like, in our brains, the empower part was never empower. It was always student teacher for autonomy, because it was really like, we want to give you all the tools necessary to where you don't need us, but you're just going to be stoked to stay around.
Right.
And so the autonomy part was always really important to us from the education, like leading the process with education so that you can become autonomous.
Right.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. It's a big thing that we use in store a lot is when someone is looking at a type of like protein to take. A big thing that we use a lot is, hey, even if you're like, no matter where you're getting this from, like even if you're getting it from somewhere else, here's the things that I would personally look for that will work for you, and here's generally what we should look for that make a good protein powder, and that goes for obviously a number of different products. But I think by taking that approach of like, hey, I'm just here to help you, is the goal there is if we can put that first, we'll build trust, and they'll come back because they trust us. Right. Even if they are knowledgeable and they don't need our help, is they trust us because inevitably they might find another type of product that they want to take and might need some advice, and will hopefully have that trust with us to be able to do that.
And when you first opened the store, there's always that like normal hesitant, this is a supplement store feel, this vibe that you get. For normally you're walking in, they're like, oh man, some bro is going to tell me to take some nonsense. Right?
Yeah, right.
And even coming in as an educated, fitnessy, nutrition-y dork, you come in there and you're like, I don't really want the spiel right now. I kind of know what I want because I've got some education, but I don't mind the conversation around it. And I remember early on going into the store, and that was definitely a piece of it. It's like, oh, they're not trying to sell me anything. They're trying to educate me on what they have. And if it is something that meets those needs, that it's here, you can acquire it, you can leave with it. But I'm not here to like force it into your hands. Here's the options, A, B, and C. Do you like those options? No, I'd love D. Cool. All right. Well, great.
Yeah,
we have A, B, and C for you.
Right, exactly. And yeah, we'll give you advice. And if it's something that, even if it's something that we don't personally carry, but we maybe have a little knowledge on, is like, hey, we'll give you some, this is generally things that I kind of look for with that type of product. And it's available on this website and this store down the road. So. Right.
That's what we always say. I'm like, they're not like broy guys trying to sell you a bunch of
That should be our slogan. Try it, not broy.
Not broy. Yes,
all right. Yes. We're putting that on the website.
But one big reason I've been excited to have you guys on the podcast, I know we've been talking about it for a little while, but is I feel like we've gotten to be around each other through a lot of stages of our business. Like I remember getting to watch you guys just in Red Rock, as I was just that gym bro, just working out and getting to watch you guys run classes, and I'd be there sometimes 7 days a week with the table trying to get somebody to come in our doors, sampling out proteins and other products, and you bringing your clients by and helping educate them on different products was super, super cool. And getting to watch you guys over time move into your own space and then move into a bigger, even cooler space has been, and watch your community, watch your team, watch your group grow over time has been really, really cool. And I feel like we got to watch you grow, and at the same time we were watching you from early stages ourselves of being the store that just opened that nobody was shopping with, honestly.
Right.
Honestly,
yeah. We always kid around that we're trying to keep up with Triad.
Yeah.
We see them growing, and we're like, all right, very well. Okay. All right.
We
Step it up. Let's go. They're cranking.
We need 2 more locations. And a full warehouse.
That's right.
So you guys talked about some growing pains before the podcast. What can you share anything on what that kind of looks like right now? As you're doing that, actually, I'm probably going to pour some whiskey.
Nice.
Do we want to start with Jameson?
Whatever. Jameson's yours, so whatever you want to drink tonight.
Oh, that's nice.
It's just a gift to the studio.
Wow,
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you ever had either of these before?
I've had the red breast before. It's
red
good.
breast before?
Yeah.
Have you tried the Sexton?
No, I have not.
Oh, we should have some Sexton.
We'll start Jameson and we'll go.
Yeah. Give me a third drink. I've got a Coke Zero, a beer, and now a Jameson. It's gonna be a good night.
So sorry, I cut you off, but the growing pains.
Growing pains. I think every stage has has a recipe, has this like mathematical equation for each stage that we're in. And it's like, oh, well, 1 + 1 = 2. And you're like, very well, I need more ones. And then there's like, okay, great, I get to 2, and it's 2 + 2 = all right, I need more 2s. And then you get to like bigger stages to where it's like 2 + triangle equals blank. And you're like, all right, how do I get triangles? And then so right now, I think we've probably been at our hardest, in 2 pieces. It's our hardest growing pain learning marketing, but not just from a student standpoint, from a staff standpoint. Yeah. So that's been like a new growing pain, is we're at this next level of marketing that our old formula for marketing, our old formula for intake isn't the same anymore because the size of the business has changed.
Yep.
And then you're trying to like take that same recipe and you're like, does this work the exact same way for acquiring new Prevail instructors as well? And relearning that recipe has been a definite growth pain.
Yeah. That was like, we went through a pretty big phase, especially at store 2, where we kind of realized that a number of our ways that we do things only work if you have one store and everybody's under one roof together and you can just have a quick conversation about something. When you can't do that, you realize how like quickly a phone call meeting that everybody's trying to listen to on speakerphone while simultaneously taking customers probably doesn't communicate all the things that need to be communicated in like a way that's going to be remembered. And then you have a kid who's only been here for 3 weeks and meeting was already 45 minutes long and he's just staring at the wall now because he doesn't even know what's going on. And you're like, what do you mean you don't remember that we're releasing this at this time on this day? And he's like, I was barely there, you know? And from that to just changing processes of payroll to changing processes of like, again, a big one was just like learning and creating a new, like kind of like you said, formula, but for us was communication. Like how do we get stronger communicating more accurately? Because for when there's 4 of us, the one whole company group chat works really great. Now that there is 17, 18 of us,
18 now, yeah.
18.
Yeah.
Dang, that's
Good
awesome.
luck
thank
not having something in that group text get buried by dumb memes and people laughing and sending jokes. And so now we've got this whole network of group chats where different things are being sent to different people that it's pertinent for them. And it's very interesting, like you say, where you go from 1 + 1 = 2 to 2 + triangle = I don't know. And
Yeah. Oh, cheers.
Yeah.
Tink to drink.
yeah, thank you again.
Jameson, by the way.
I haven't had just Jameson in forever, I feel like.
And it's better than I remember, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've had it since I started drinking whiskeys more neat. That's very good.
We used to have a shot of Jameson every year at Sample Triad until you stopped taking us to bars after Sample Triad.
That wasn't any normal shot of Jameson, though. Would you like to explain?
Yeah, it's really funny. So we have a game that we play from time to time where we just order drinks, and it's like, if I get it, I'm going to order it for him too, and then he'll order something and get it for me too. But I like to play my little pranks sometimes. So we it became a tradition to do a this special drink after Sample Triad. What do we call it?
You have to say the name.
I remember what it's called. We call it a dishonorable discharge. And it is a drop shot of Jameson into a PBR. And it is as gross as it sounds. And so I'd love to used to just surprise him, like, here's your drink. And he'd look at me like, fuck.
Weren't you guys there the first year that we did that at the after party for Sample Triad? Were you there when he brought that drink by for me?
I don't remember that part.
I'm sneaky,
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Because he's usually talking with somebody and he's like in some in-depth conversation with some other like business owner, and they're talking, spreadsheets or whatever they talk about. And and I like tap him on the shoulder and he's like, oh, what? And I'm like, and he's like, damn it. It's time. I'll have to bring us some for a Sample Triad.
I don't know what if dishonorable discharge had a taste, that would be it.
That's perfect.
It's funny because it sounds like what I drank in the Marine Corps for about 4 years.
Right, exactly.
That's why you're such a big fan of Jameson.
Right.
Yeah, that's the last time I had a Jameson, and I wonder why I didn't like it then.
It turns out when it's dropped in PBR.
Like, they have Jameson shots in the studio, how many times a week for birthdays?
I mean, we go through quite a bit of whiskey.
I forgot you guys did that.
We do.
It probably, Have you guys been able to keep up with the frequency of birthdays with your
We've gotten, I think that's all the whiskey that we have at the studio has all been gifted. And so
Yeah, like at this
now,
point,
yeah, up to now. And so we haven't bought a bottle of whiskey in like, I don't know, 3-4 years. Yeah,
That's the
it just
best
keeps
part.
showing up.
Yeah, right.
Just acquiring more and more on top of the bookshelf.
And then if it's somebody's birthday and they have like a very certain whiskey that they like, then they want to bring it in.
That makes
Yeah.
They'll bring in their own
Yeah.
stuff.
I feel like that's the coolest part about being into bourbon is it makes for a very obvious gift. And it's like, and as someone that likes whiskey in general is I appreciate all of them.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you could give me anything and I'll be like, this is dope. I'm excited to try it. Or I've tried it before and I love it and I'm going to drink this.
So you guys heard it on here first. He wants a plastic bottle of Old Crow next time you see him. Cost you $8.99 for a fifth.
Yeah. What's funny about the bourbons and all the whiskeys that are up there, for the most part, someone brings something in, they know what they're bringing in, and it's usually fairly good stuff.
Yeah.
But the majority of people in the studio aren't really bourbon drinkers, and so
yeah.
we'll get down something that's like an $80 or $90 bottle of whiskey, and we're
Yeah.
all taking shots at it at like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday or whatever that is, right? And half the people are like, "Oh my goodness, what is this?" And
you're
they're
like-
like, "It's really good stuff."
You're like, it's Macallan 18. This is like $300.
Yeah, and they're like, no, thank you.
I remember that reminds me, I will never forget. Well, it was either a bachelor party or a float trip. I don't remember. I opened a cooler and just floating in the like half water, half ice with the label like half peeled off was like a Jameson or not a Jameson,
Woodford?
no, it was Jefferson aged at sea. And I'm like, this is a really nice bottle of bourbon in here. There's just like half the labels peeled
Yeah.
off because it's been soaking in water all day. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm like, who brought this? And it was like, I don't know. Somebody gave it to me. And I'm like, that was a nice gift, but you didn't understand.
No, did not get it.
Yeah, you didn't grasp that was a nice gift.
So with scaling, I'm imagining you guys, because obviously, because you still do the shots with everybody for their birthdays, right?
Yep.
And I got to imagine the frequency is increased, right? And as you scale and more locations, more members, I'm anticipating your full-time job will eventually just turn into just getting drunk every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the long game. I get it. I see what you guys are doing.
We're on to you.
Yeah.
There are certain
Kevin talked
days-
about how intentional you were. Yeah.
yeah. There are
Hey,
certain days, that's for sure, where they get stacked up, and you're like, all right, I need to. Okay.
What's-
what
Sit
day
out
was
on
it
this
that we
one.
always had a lot of? Man, what day was like Marine Corps birthday? If we're there in the studio, it's like multiple sessions. You end up taking whiskey shots.
Or if like we're not on the floor anymore, we don't teach any sessions. But if an instructor is teaching a couple of
Yeah,
sessions
that's
back to back on
definitely
their
it.
birthday, then everyone wants to take a shot with them.
Yeah, the instructor's
For
like
their-
4 shots deep by the 4th session. Yeah, those get tough.
Yeah. We should implement that at Triad.
Yeah. Make it maybe like a challenge. Like
Who
you
can
got
get drunkest on shift?
you got to take as many shots as
He didn't
as
say
your
no. You
age.
guys heard that,
Yeah.
right?
I didn't say no.
I didn't say yes. Legally not obligated to. But you have to take as many shots as you are years old for your birthday and see
God.
how long you can take customers.
Yeah, I like it. That's a good one.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Let the customers know whose birthday it is. They can bring in the whiskey.
Yeah.
Maybe a better one would be how many years you've been at Triad.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
34 shots of whiskey will probably kill me.
Yeah.
But an incentive to put it up on, like you said, put it up on, like post it and be like, bring him a shot kind of deal.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. We'll do it that way where customers, you're allowed one shot per customer. And the
It's
goal
up
is
to you. It's up to the customers.
up to the customers to put them out of commission.
We should make this supplement related. For your birthday, you have to do a scoop of pre-workout for however many years old you are. So give me the 34 scoops of
man.
pre-workout.
Yeah, and as long as the chaser is always the hydrate.
Yeah, right. Well,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
No be problems at all.
So, not on floor anymore, huh?
No.
No. Do you guys ever jump in and cover any classes or anything, any times or?
If somebody's like out of town,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I think
It's really random.
I covered
Somebody's
one.
last minute sick or something.
I covered one this year.
How's it been not being on the forefront as a coach anymore and getting to kind of see things from a further back perspective?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we love teaching.
Yeah. I feel like that was another growing pain. What is that graph that our coach pulls up a lot, Evan? It's like the doer, have you guys seen that?
That sounds familiar.
It's from
It's
the,
like the doer, the creator, the owner.
Oh, yeah.
Or like the doer, the manager, the creator, the owner, or something like that.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying.
the investor.
I've seen
Owner,
that.
investor. Doer,
Owner,
creator, owner, investor.
Yeah.
There's each stage is along the way.
Yeah.
Like going.
I think it's from the EOS model.
Okay.
Part of that comes from there.
What's EOS?
Entrepreneurial operating systems.
Okay. I feel like I've seen something similar to that was part of a different model. But
Yeah.
no, that's all very. So what stage are you guys at now?
Well, we're kind of. I would definitely say we're at the owner, and then this is the growing pains, right? Is like, how do you stay in that lane and not get back to the doer lane? And how do you not like.
both of you at the same time.
And how do you, me specifically, it's really hard to stay in the owner and out of the creator.
Yes.
That's like really difficult to do.
Yes. And
'cause-
me, like in a little bit of doer and creator.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
just like, I just want to let's just go. Let's
Right.
just do it.
Yeah.
you know?
Doer, creator, owner,
Owner.
Yeah.
investors.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
You guys are mostly in the owner space now.
Right.
I can totally understand. Yeah, it's still having certain responsibilities yourself of, certain things that you just maybe not ready to give up, or it's just it's you haven't found how to give them up or the right strategy to give them up yet. So
Or just
that's
being
tough.
okay giving them up.
That's tough.
You know?
Yeah.
That never gets easy either. Like some things, like I feel like I'm able to pass along, and there's just certain things that make sense, and there's other things where I'm just like I just can't. Like no matter how much I've given up, there's still some things where it's just tough.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's tough too because like you can trust somebody through and through that they're going to do a good job and all that kind of stuff, but there is nothing like knowing it's done because you did it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, we might pass things off. Like he passed me off a list of things we need to rent for Sample Triad, and luckily we've known each other long enough that he trusts me. But he doesn't know that I did that or not. You know what I mean? I could tell him, and he's like, okay, but like I wasn't the one who did it, so I didn't click it myself. And it's like it is hard to like. I feel like at times to just be totally at peace with that like, oh yeah, like I just fully trust, and if they didn't do it, we won't have toilets at Sample Triad. You know what I mean? And it will be a disaster. But it is I feel like that never gets easier of like knowing that something's going to happen, because you have to give the space to allow it to happen,
Right.
but that also allows them the space to fail, and that can ruin things.
That's where common sense comes into play a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Like I asked Thomas to rent porta potties, and then 2 weeks later I realized I didn't specify how many. And it's like, I hope he has some common sense to be able to, and he's done it in previous years before.
I'm the toilet man now, so
Nice.
But it's like,
I'm good.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, in most of the time people would ask, but then sometimes you run into scenarios where like, Kevin, I got one for 300 people. And you're like, maybe we should have done two.
Yeah.
Or someone that's just like, all right, I figured we have about 300 people, so I got about 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you talked about the communications and the growing pains, that has definitely been something we've been learning is you can't over communicate the details like over and over and over again, because you just think in your brain, you're like, oh yeah, bathrooms. And then what you don't think about is like, your brain already processed the 15 details around bathrooms. Their brain hasn't even processed the word bathrooms yet.
You told me
And you're
bathroom.
Like, oh shit, I should have told them the 15 things I think about the bathrooms.
Right.
But you
Even
don't think about it.
subconsciously that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like you told me to rent porta potties. You didn't tell me to rent hand washing stations. But I rent hand washing stations because we want those too.
And that's what gives me confidence, I think, is when someone like him takes over something like that, and it's just like, I didn't even think through that because we didn't used to rent porta potties because it didn't used to be that big of an event. But when he rented, he probably noticed that and was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea to do that. And it's like, it gives me confidence that he did better than what I could see surface level.
I'm double the toilet man he'll ever be. So.
But
Got that on
genuinely,
tape.
that's what gives me confidence is when someone comes back to me and they're like, "Hey, like, look at how I did a better job than you did." They don't say that, but like I'm thinking that. I'm like, "Yeah, you did better than."
Yeah, we kid around, which we're fairly serious about coming off the floor. And people are like, well, how do you feel about it? Like, well, they do a better job than I do.
Yeah.
So I feel great about it.
Learning to appreciate someone doing better than you can is what's helped me a lot. That's for sure. Of being like, I don't think I would have done this well with this. So yeah, they should definitely have this. So you mentioned communication. How much of your job do you feel like is just not actually working on anything or creating anything, or I guess not that you guys aren't creators, but simply just communicating things now?
Kevin, how much of your job do you feel it is?
A lot, like 90%, I feel like.
There is a lot of communication.
Yeah, it's
They-
definitely
but it-
been. I would say that our communications have.
We use Slack. Do you guys use Slack?
Well, one,
You guys have mentioned that
We use
before.
and it's been a game changer. For
Tell me
sure.
again what Slack is.
Hundreds of channels in Slack.
So Slack is mainly a communications app
Yeah.
that it has lists, but mainly it's just a bunch of. You can have a bunch of threads.
These are all
And then you
different
can
threads.
change who's in each thread. And so in
Yeah,
our
you guys only have a couple.
And you scroll.
Yes, I-
Yeah, right.
we have the most amount
Threads
of
and
those
Google
threads.
Docs
Yeah, right.
and
So I think from
everything
our
lives there.
side, we communicate. I wouldn't say the total volume of communication, but now our communication to team is so wide in communication. I mean, that Slack channel, I don't know, we must have like 30 channels, but every one is a very specific topic.
Right.
And that's kind of how our brains work anyways. And thank goodness we found something that's a replication of how our brains think, where we can just like see a list of all the types of topics of conversations we're having in communications and pick and move back and forth through them. But I don't really feel like it's that much. And we intentionally try to get out of the way as much as possible.
That's another tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Super tough.
Yeah.
Or just like if somebody asks something, just to like wait for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the hardest.
Waiting is the
It's just
hardest.
like waiting and like don't answer yet.
That's one thing that I found is I feel like I definitely have days where I just get so overloaded that I don't get to text for a couple hours sometimes, and it's such a beautiful thing when someone texts me a question and then 2 hours later, never mind, I got it figured out.
I text you that. I feel like I text you that all the time.
I didn't want to call anybody out.
I text you that all the time. I'm like, hey, what's this for this? Never mind, I got it. I figured it out.
We might need to look into Slack. How did your employees, like, how did the rest of your team take it when you guys implemented Slack? I guess I don't know how long you've had it, but
A long time.
Long
We've had
time. We've had it for a while.
5
I think the
years.
thing about Slack and how the team has taken it is that when we first got Slack, there was maybe 4 to 5 channels, 2 or 3, 4 of us. So it has been growing as we've been growing. And then
Right.
so when we've implemented a new instructor into it, it's kind of been like, just worry about these like as soon as they come into instructor onboarding, they're in one Slack channel that's just their Slack channel and then like another one. When they graduate,
keep it simple.
right? Just you're in
Yeah.
these 2 channels. That's all you can see, and not that we're trying to hide things, but we're trying to keep it
Not
simple.
overwhelm them.
Right
Yeah.
here, just think about these 2 pieces, and so we start to teach them that that's how we're communicating, and then as they get farther into our system, we can open up more and more and more channels so they can see more and more of the.
It is nice that it is specific to topics as well.
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah.
like, you can just, this is what this is about.
Yeah. No, as many group chats as we have, that might start to make sense. Do you how many coaches do you guys have now? Like, how many people on the team do you guys have?
So we just let's see.
She's counting.
7, 8.
8?
Nice.
8. So one full-time GM, Tori.
Nice.
which you guys know, and then a couple full focus part-time people, so they don't have like another gig outside of us.
Sure.
but they're
Right.
not like full-time.
Right.
And then we have another 3 or 4 that have another gig, and
Yeah.
they're like part-time at
Sure.
us at the
Yeah.
studio.
I'm sure with coaching, it's a little easier to work in something else too. So, do you remember how many employees you guys had when you implemented or started using Slack?
I think there was just like 2 of us.
Pretty
or
sure.
like 2 other
Okay.
people. I think it was Kevin and Taylor, maybe.
I think there's only 4 of
There
us
was 4
total.
of us total. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
it's nice that you guys implemented that early, because I'm sure, like you were mentioning, as you're bringing on new people, that's just the standard. That's just part of the job. They don't know anything different.
Right.
And that's a nice thing, when we implement new things and, we bring new people on, it's, hey, this is just what we do. It's and
Right.
they take to it just fine. I'm sitting here thinking like Slack could legitimately be something that honestly we'd probably benefit from having, at least starting simply. But I'm like imagining all like the early 20-year-olds and like how much pushback there's going to be if we.
Yeah, it's easier when they come in and we're already doing it.
Yeah,
Than it is to like change
Right.
how we already are.
I need everybody to download this app. Like
Right.
how much we're gonna have to push just to get them to
Yeah.
download it and log in.
You're like, guys, we need to take you this. You need to take this 2-minute survey. Just do it by the end of the day. Okay, guys, it's been 4 days. Only half of you have done the survey.
And now when we do things like that, it's like, all right, we're in the middle of a meeting. Everybody do the survey right now.
Right.
Let me know when you're done. Yeah.
Raise your hand when you're done.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you should just use Slack for just sample triad first.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, we got this new thing to help clear up communications for sample triad, and just use it for that communication only.
Yeah.
And then be like, hey, how'd you guys like that? And then roll out all the other stuff, or just start it between the 2 of you.
Yeah. Little
Like,
by little,
yeah,
make it
yeah.
an exclusive thing that people want to be a part of. That's make it enticing
right,
to want to be.
right.
Oh, you haven't gotten your Slack account yet?
Oh, only the managers are in the Slack channel?
Yay.
Oh.
That's honestly, a great way to potentially kind of like, make it something where we just start small and implement as we go. That we don't have to start with 30 different.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just been built every time we get into another situation where,
Yeah.
like we had, like team meeting, right? We used to have a team meeting Slack channel, but the team meeting agendas and team meeting dates and times were always in the same channel, and it started getting clunky. So we made another one channel that's just team meeting date and time. And the other one's just team meeting. And so that's why it's gotten to this like 31, because we've learned that from the instructor standpoint, they want the fastest searchable channel.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like, when was the
Yeah.
team meeting daytime? And they go look, team meeting daytime, and only that channel pops
Right.
up.
Yep.
So it makes the communication.
Well, that
way
is nice
faster.
because you start to have things where it's like, if we have a sample triad one, it's like, this text thread is only information based around sample triad. So if you look back to last year of like, well, what do we do for this? What do we do for that?
Yeah.
Like that information is probably a lot more accessible than it is, even within our own group chats of stuff that we have. They're not topic based. They're just people based.
I know we do a lot of shared notes.
Yeah, a
on,
ton of
like,
shared notes.
Yeah, where's everybody going for events this week, and
Right.
like managers can update that and coordinate, and I can look and see where everybody's kind of going and making sure everything is coordinated correctly. So, we do. I've got way too many notes on my phone.
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
do too.
yeah.
Not
Kevin
organized though.
Kevin is half delivery boy right now, and half referee, I think is where we've settled his official title to.
Oh no.
Just
Yeah.
making, that's another, 90% communication, which that probably includes my refereeing.
Yeah, for sure.
Is just that's been a learning curve for us recently. Is as we're starting to get to move other people to the back end, and even just with people in store getting to the point where we can give them more responsibilities and let them make more decisions, is the really cool part. Is at least most people are really bought in and are really passionate about what we're doing and the decisions we're making. So when we let them make decisions, they're putting a lot of time and effort into it, which is a huge benefit. It's a learning curve, and a big one for me when we were first getting started, but I'm now having to, I feel like, teach a lot of other people is, hey, the person next to you also is as passionate about the decisions that we're making, and this one affects them, or this one involves them, or they're in a spot where they should be helping make this decision. So it's
a product of passion for sure,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about like growing problems. It's like it's good that everybody's so passionate, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come with its own set of fleas.
right, and there's a learning curve for most people of hey, we have to recognize that be passionate, don't lose that, but have respect for other people's passion as well. And that's how we're able to get to the point where we're cohesive and we're working more as a team. So
we're going to get him a striped shirt and a whistle.
I mean, definitely Halloween costume.
Yeah.
I actually was a referee for Halloween one year.
See, there we go. He was born to do it.
I'm already ready.
Yeah.
I think
destiny.
I think I still have that in my closet. Actually,
We'll get you a whistle. You're ready to go, dude.
I think I might have that too. Actually,
There we go.
Oh man.
So one of the things that I think is really cool about you guys as well is you guys obviously have overall passion for fitness in general, but like Kevin kind of I think touched on either before or during the podcast is the way that you guys challenge yourself in more external forms that aren't your most traditional things. Sometimes I know I've seen you through social media and stuff. I know I've seen you guys hike rim to rim, do all sorts of stuff. Tell us a little bit about some of those things and kind of what got you into it.
What got us into it? I didn't really. I think sometimes with fitness, coming from the service and then doing stuff with fitness all the time, getting out and then getting into more my personal kind of path was the Marine Corps, super functional stuff, but training bodybuilding, but then doing really functional things in the Marine Corps, getting out, only doing that bodybuilding style. And then I started to get this itch of doing stuff with my body instead of just training my body to look a different way.
Right.
And so that started getting into a little more of these endurance-based events, obstacle course racing, go ruck events, and then us together doing things. And that kind of got us into, really wanting to go see really pretty things. But at the same time, it's we can go see pretty things, but we also want to push our fitness. We want to know that we're doing stuff. And that was kind of what tripped us into getting into this ultra endurance, tougher.
Okay, but let's tell them the real backstory of this. Sean's grandpa asked him to hike the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, when I was in the service.
Rim to rim.
Yeah, I had no clue what they were talking about.
What year? 2008?
2008.
What rim to what rim?
Right. I was in Southern California, and he was like, hey, me and my brother are going to go out to the Grand Canyon. Into summer, can you get leave? We're going to go hike the canyon. Yeah. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll ask. Oh, sure. Whatever. And I didn't even ask how long or what we were doing.
What is
I
it
was 24 in the Marine Corps. Obviously, I was my brain was useless. I thought I could do anything. And so I show up and I've never seen the Grand Canyon before. And I was like, where are we going? And they're like, across. And I'm like, across where? You can't even see the bottom. Yeah. And so we went down the canyon, had a really wild event, and it was just, when you do those super hard, long things, there's a lot of, and we've done this multiple times. We've seen people do it for the first time, but I think there's something pretty primal about being on your own feet, doing something for so long.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no distractions. There's nothing else going on. It's just you and your suffering. And it kind of it's just you just become really, I don't know what to say the word is, but I would say it's not focused, but you're the only thing I have to think about right now for the next several hours is just walking out of this.
Yeah, it's the difference between being focused and not distracted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of got us into it. And then when we started dating, it was, hey, we should go try to do one of these experiences. And we weren't running at all, but we were doing walking and we were doing rucking and we were in the gym lifting all the time.
And I had never been hiking before. I'm going to throw this out here.
No, never been hiking. Wow. And so we flew out to the canyon, went across completely unprepared in the middle of the night.
Stepped off at 4 p.m. I had never seen the canyon either.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what are we doing? I thought it was going to be walk in the park. I had 30 pounds of stuff in my bag.
Oh, no.
Of a basic backpack.
Yeah.
Not a hiking bag.
Yeah, no frame.
I
nothing.
took 2 small bottles of champagne. Because I was we're celebrating. We're hiking the canyon. This is how unprepared. I had no idea what we were doing. All of my camera equipment.
Full tripod, everything. We were going to stop and take pictures and all these things we were going to do.
Flip-flops.
I think I took a bag of M&Ms and 3 peanut butter sandwiches or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. unprepared.
Yeah.
Unprepared. But we did it, and then I think from there, us sharing that together was something that we wanted to share with other people. And that kind of like, and then obviously, because, achieving, people always want to achieve more. You're like, oh, well, if I can do 24 miles across the Grand Canyon, what else can I do?
Is it 24 miles across rim to rim?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy.
The mileage isn't the crazy part. There's 5,000 feet of elevation down and then another up. So it's 10,000 feet of elevation change over 24 miles.
And you go down and you're just like,
everything's,
everything's great.
Everything's great. Yeah.
We have an experience similar to that.
Yeah.
My bachelor party.
Yeah, he did kind of similar story to you hiking with your grandpa. Is his bachelor party. He's like, yeah, we're gonna go out to Salt Lake City and we're gonna climb a mountain. And I'm like, for your bachelor party?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll go out to kind of same deals. We'll go out to Salt Lake City and we'll do a hike. And I'm expecting like mountain, like, okay, technically we're high enough to
I've
be a
done
mountain.
this mountain before too.
And like we get there and he's like, we're going up to that guy. And I'm like, bro, that's like in the clouds. Like that's like, are we going to have to camp halfway up? Because like that's up there.
Yeah, it is 4.5 miles up, 4.5 miles back. And in that 4.5 miles, you do 4,200 feet of elevation gain up and 42,000 feet or 4,200 feet of elevation loss down.
Spicy.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, spicy.
It's just, you're essentially just walking on stairs, but that are wobbly and rock and sticks for, what did it take us? 8 hours total?
Yeah, and we took a little time up at the top.
Yeah, and then the last quarter mile, you do 850 feet of elevation gain, and it is full on like scrambling up to that last bit.
Nice.
She's the spicy one for sure, but it's so true. Like getting to do that with all of my friends, like us together like that. That's like such a different bond of like that level of suffer, because it is a trudge and it is just a level of suffer that you just don't normally experience. And again, there's no distraction. We're not on our phones or, we're just, you get to the top and you eat this freaking like frozen cooked chicken that's now thawed in your bag, wrapped in tortillas with buffalo. It's the greatest meal you've ever eaten in your life.
Yes.
I also packed beers on
It's just, but there's just something about that like you share that bond for so long afterwards, forever, where it's just like, like we're really excited. The wedding is coming up. We're actually 13 days from the wedding now. So super excited. We'll be married getting married in 13 days. We're getting married right outside Zion National Park in southern Utah. So, so gonna be awesome. But all the guys from the bachelor party are all getting back together again for the first time since. And it's just like something different with that group, because you can meet somebody the day before. You climb a freaking mountain together, you're best friends afterwards. You know what I mean? There's just something different to it.
Yeah.
So curious, did you guys, after you did your first hikes in the Grand Canyon, which sounds like there were two different hikes, were you hooked like as you were doing it or right after, or was there a period of time before you realized like, okay, that was actually a kind of fun?
Yeah.
During, I was really freaked out because it was so dark.
Yeah.
It was full moon.
The headlamp doesn't light up the whole canyon for you?
Well, I know. We were like in the shadow of the moonlight though, because you're like, it was so dark and like bats are flying at your headlamp, and then you can see little green eyes randomly.
Oh
There's
yeah,
like deer down there.
So
in the moment, I was like, "This is terrifying. Get me out of this hole." But then right after,
you're
I
in the
was
biggest ditch in America.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah. He proposed like right when we finished at the top.
Yeah,
at sunrise.
I remember that.
So then after that, and then
we call it type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's it.
I don't know.
It's not fun while you're doing it. There's something special about it. I don't know if fun is the word I'd use.
Right.
But afterwards, it's funny because that is, the real struggle is we landed in Salt Lake the day before.
Oh gosh.
One of my buddies landed that morning, and luckily he was lives at a closer elevation to Salt Lake than we do. But even still, the thing that I still laugh about, and that is the only time ever, like since or before, that I recovered 0. My recovery score that night through sleep was a literal 0.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it'll get you.
Yeah.
It'll get you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was I think after, I would say there's like a 24-hour window post one of those events where you're kind of like, oh, I did it. And you're like, cool. And you're like, I mean,
Sense of
whatever,
accomplishment.
yay. And then like you get right into the next day. The soreness kind of wears off a little bit. You get a little bit of sleep, and you're like, I think I could do that again.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool, right?
So what else can I do?
Yeah.
I don't know. Mine was delayed a couple of weeks. I think it helped. Like I was like huge sense of accomplishment. Like afterwards, like especially like we're all going, like we stopped at Sonic and got like waters and stuff.
Looking like homeless people.
Oh yeah, straight up
Crazy
homeless people. But yeah, it was the huge sense of accomplishment, and the next day, like we didn't have much planned, so it was like just relaxing and like recovering, and which was nice. But yeah, I think it was honestly, I made it the background of my phone. One of the guys that does a lot of hiking took a picture with his drone when we were up top, and you can kind of see where we started and where we're ending. And it's like every time I look at that, I'm like, man, that was fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was like a couple weeks in, I was just like, because I said afterwards, I was like, yeah, that was cool, but like, I don't know if I'm a big hiker.
Right.
But now I'm sitting here, I'm like, when we got to climb another mountain.
Now we're going to the mountain, boy.
Yeah, it's slightly addicting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
was a funny story. It legitimately, you guys are obviously very familiar. I mean, it's like climbing a set of broken stairs for 5 hours straight. On the way down though, our buddy Vince, you guys probably remember Vincent and Chad, the original owners. At Triad, used to do the sample events at Red Rock with me all the time, but he lives out in Salt Lake City, and he's built different. Yeah. He drank like 3 beers on the way up, and was like the first one at the top. Yeah. So, I saved mine until my way down, but I was having a great way on the day. On the way down, I had my M&Ms. I was drinking my beer. I was like just cruising, like M&Ms in one hand, beer in the other, just kind of making my way down the mountain.
Just bebopping his way down the mountain.
It was great. I remember that fondly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd definitely do that again now.
But yeah, it is interesting though, because I've kind of, that's been, especially this year for me, that's been a new experience of just finding, and I'd climbed that mountain last year, and I climbed it again this year with everybody, but just finding new ways to kind of challenge myself, we're far from old, but it's one of those things where it's like finding new life experiences and new things. Like there is not necessarily a limit to that, but where it becomes limiting to be able to do those things. And it's like, that was one of the big things for me this year was like, I've never really tried to do anything like endurance wise, like I've always lifted. I've done jiu-jitsu now for 4.5, almost 5 years, and so like that's an endurance-y sport, but it's not like I've ever just like gone running, you know what I mean? And so I had contacted a couple of my friends who are decently avid runners, or at least like really smart when it comes to running on like programming and stuff. And that was kind of like the beginning of the year for me. I was kind of like, screw it. Like I'm gonna start doing some running, and saw the Prevail tent, but ended up running the half marathon. And that was those kind of things though. Like I still run now, like I run multiple times a week still. And it's like, if you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone of the things you're used to doing, you don't even realize the passions you haven't found yet. And I think that was a big one for me, where I was like, I really enjoy this. Like, it's a nice way to clear my head. Like, I do well with it. I'm, like it's I'm better at it than I thought I was going to be, but that was just because I was running like an idiot before. But it's like, getting into those kind of things, I understand the allure of it. I understand the excitement and why people do these super long races and and it's like, man, like if I would have never just been like, Thomas, like quit being a wuss all the time about like running and endurance stuff and just go try it. Like see if it's something you're into. And now it's like one of the things I look forward to every week.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of parallels between the endurance world and the business world, and because it's the same process of that seems kind of uncomfortable, but I kind of don't like where I'm at, but I kind of need to put some effort into where I want to go. I have this bigger goal, and it's just rinse and repeating and rinsing, repeating and rinsing, repeating. But I think there's a lot of us who just love being in effort.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep. I am working towards something, and if I'm not working towards something, you feel stale and stagnant.
Yep.
And just like creating multiple businesses or in growing a business, that endurance world is very similar in the same thing of like, oh, it's right around the corner. I just got to push a little more, a little harder. I got to keep going. At least I'm doing something.
Yeah, it's I think that was the thing that kept me personally going in our first few years of business. I definitely can be very much that way with my health and fitness and just being in the gym. But especially in business when we were getting to the point where it's just like, we just got to try and cover our bills. We just got to pay rent. We just got to, make our loan payment. And we were finding things that, especially when we got to the point where it's like, okay, we're covering bills, but we're stagnant. We've seemed to hit a plateau, which we did for about a year. Was the thing that kept me going was working to implement new things or try new things that would make a change, because nothing changes if nothing changes, right? And 9 out of 10 things that we were trying weren't working because I didn't go to school for any of this. I didn't have any training. We were going in pretty blind. So it was a lot of trial and error. But I think that's the thing that kept me going was the hope that sometimes these things do work out and they do push us forward, and we learn from those things, and not just from the things that work out, but from all the things that don't work out as well. Right. And I think that's what gave me hope. And where I really started to like struggle mentally is when we didn't have something else that we were working on that hopefully would produce a result. So
it's so funny, right? Because I feel like this is a topic that comes up all the time, but it's like, it's the thing that keeps you going, but it is kind of the, what's the right way to put this? Like the crappy part of it, right? It is the never ability to feel fully successful that allows you to be successful. You know what I mean? It's because you're always having to and feel like you want to push to something new, where it's like you'll never actually feel accomplished in the way you want to be. Maybe there'll be moments you look back, we try to, smell the roses from time to time, but it is that oh yeah, hey, this actually, we do have 3 locations at a warehouse in this. Gosh, we'll try it. It's kind of massive. All right, well, yeah, let's do something cooler now. You know what I mean? That was a cool 12 seconds. Great. Let's, we would have dreamed to be where we are now, but it's the dream of where we want to be that always keeps us going.
Yeah, it's wild how fast your baseline changes.
Oh my gosh.
So fast.
Not even a day sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because if you were to forecast yourself right now, talk to yourself 7 years ago, 8 years ago, you'd be like, dude, you fucking made it.
Yeah.
And right now
you can chill now.
Yeah. You're like, I'm a piece of shit.
All the
I'm
time.
worthless.
Right. It's so tough.
And that fear of if we're not growing, we might be shrinking. So
Yes.
That's the crappy part is hopefully we will learn to appreciate it to the thing, one day, but at the same token, it's if it's what gets us to where we are and where we're going, you gotta take it how it is.
I think it's more about enjoying and finding ways to be able to do that long term,
right.
as opposed to getting to a point where you feel comfortable. Because I realized at least recently that I legitimately thought when we had, I could envision 3 locations. At that point I'll be able to be on the back end outside of store working on the business, not just in the business. Right. And I feel like, we could chill there for a little bit. And we could kind of use that as our base, as our platform. And now that we're here, it's like I'm terrified of slowing down. Right. It's just like, okay, so like that feeling of feeling like we've gotten to a checkpoint, that's not real. Like I just need to figure out how to be more comfortable and be more sustainable about just continuing to move forward. I think is something that I've personally realized recently.
Yeah, like anytime I've like talked to anybody or anybody asks about, like the topic of like what makes you happy or whatever about the company is, it's like my go-to answer, it's funny that you say it because I think it aligns with what you're saying, is like my number one answer is like, I don't get the Sunday scaries anymore. Like I'm never scared, like I'm never like, oh, I gotta go to work. Obviously there's days I'd rather like sit on the couch and read or something, but like there's, it's one of those, what was that?
Nerd.
You want to fight? But it's one of those things where my happiness, my true happiness within it, is my excitement for work on a regular basis. Even when things are, they have their ebbs and flows, but I'm still like excited. I'm never like, oh my gosh, another week of triad, another week of define. It's like, no, I'm excited for all the things that like we're doing and where we're going, and not just the opportunities that we have, but the opportunities that, get created for the people around us. Like all those kind of things are, like you say, it always reminds me of this meme where it's like a pirate and he's like, maybe the real buried treasure is the friends you make along the way.
If that ain't the truth, though. Right? So any plans for any growth? Because you talked about keeping up with us, man, and I feel like in a lot of ways we try and keep up with you and your guys's, again, your community and your structure and the way that you guys are, again, so intentional, not just about with your clients, but obviously clearly with your entire business. We try and keep up with you in those aspects as well, because sometimes we're a freaking mess. So any plans for any kind of growth or expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. We just recast. You guys familiar with Vivid Vision? Okay. Well, that's a good one to get familiar with.
Okay.
I was going to say The Gap and the Gain earlier too. I'm reading that right now.
Enlighten us.
The Gap and the Gain is, so for Dani specifically, she has a hard time pausing, being grateful, being in the moment, like just like letting everything kind of like sink around her and being like, yes, it's awesome. Because she's kind of an all gas, no brakes, like effort, work. And so The Gap and the Gain is a book about how you kind of like, how you can toggle between those two things and how you can appreciate. And now if you're not, grateful for the gain you've made compared to like always forecasting the gap you're in, that's the kind of the premise behind the book. And then Vivid Vision is another really good book we read probably 3 or 4 years ago. And we just went over it again with our business coaching group and our business coach, and recasting a Vivid Vision, which a Vivid Vision is, it's like a workshop, self-workshop, I guess, where like a worksheet.
Kind of like journaling.
Kind of where you kind of like, you're forecasting the 3-year, 5-year version of like your vivid vision in detail. Like in 3 years, I'm gonna wake up to this. At 10 a.m. I'll be doing this. This is the type of people I'll be around.
My warehouse will smell like this.
Right. Or very vivid.
Yes.
Like very, like really painting this like deep 360 picture. And we went through it by ourselves, middle of the last studio, kind of about where we are now with the current studio. Really with like the aesthetics and the space and the style of like, we really want this, like this perfect picture of what we think is a really cool gym to be in. And now that we're there, and should take a moment to like several times, there's definitely a few times a year where we stop and like just stare at the gym and be like, oh yeah, remember this is a shit ton of work to get here.
Yeah.
Okay, be grateful for here, but recasting that vision of 3 locations in 3 years. is the next steps that we're pushing hard into right now.
Yeah. Do you guys feel more capable of being able to step into that kind of role with being more in the ownership position and not being caught in the coaching every single day?
Yeah, for sure. I think we've been outside of the product. When you said that, like the work on, work in, which I think is a little bit of a stupid cliche.
Can be, for sure.
Because I think like if you're not working in the business, then it seems kind of not the point, because that's the business you built. Wouldn't you want to be in it? Like there's that piece of it.
100%.
Like, oh, I'm so passionate about this thing that I built. Why would I want to be out of that thing?
I'm actively working on figuring out how to get back in the store, to be honest with you. So.
Right. It's like, man, I remember like telling people about protein powders. I miss telling people about protein powders, but at the same time, you're like, I can't spend all my time talking about protein powders.
Right.
Like that back and forth.
Right.
And so I think that we've both had we've been intentionally stepping away from the product, not really stepping away from it, but being like, we're so excited to allow the opportunity for people to be implementing the product. And
how can we like support them so they can be the best Prevail instructors and Prevail leaders?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be better than we are.
Yeah.
In the early days, it was like us doing as good a job as possible with the student.
Yeah.
Like just deliver. And then that shift that we've had has been like, okay, it's not our job to deliver product to student. It's our job to deliver product to staff. And with that shift, we feel confident that we have a pretty strong recipe to repeat that stuff.
Yeah. It sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, you've built the structure, you built the system to help the members. And now it's building the structure, building the system to help the instructors become the best instructors to be able to implement that system that you've already put in place for the clients.
Yeah. And create like full-time opportunities for people that want to like do fitness.
That's
career,
super cool too.
That's a huge gap in the industry and I would say definitely the professionalism of the industry. And I don't know if you see it on your guys' side either, but there's so many people who look at our industry as they just kind of like, oh, whatever. It's just the gym bro. It's just the girl who cares about her Instagram pictures. It's the hobby. It's this thing that you kind of do on the side. And you talk about protein powders, but what do you really do? Like, you're like, no, this is like really what I do. Like,
what do you mean? You're 33 and you work at a supplement store?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of that is that whenever I got into the industry as a personal trainer at Red Rock, even though Red Rock was a phenomenal learning, it was a phenomenal stepping stone for me, the entire time I was having to learn how to make a living, how to be a professional as a personal trainer with little to no assistance. And I was just learning along the way. Everything I could pick up, I was like, how do I do this? How do I do this full time? How do I make this a legit career? There's not a lot of support to make it a full career. And I know that if there would have been someone around like we are around now saying, this is how you can be a full-time professional in the industry, be taken seriously, and make not make like wild money, but like you can still make a good living at doing this thing.
Doing something you genuinely enjoy too.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think you guys have nailed the head on that one. That's definitely my perception of Prevail. Is it's a very, not just a professional place to go and catch a workout, but a professional place to work as well. As you guys have those structures, you conduct yourself very professionally. Just the look of the gym and the logo and everything is very professional. It's not that, like you said, just the like, we're doing this and it's pretty cool and kind of for fun kind of deal, like fitness. But yeah, no, that's very much my point of view on that. No. So yeah.
Well, and it's funny, because what you guys are talking about, the irony of saying that is literally today is the first day that we've transitioned some of my hours out of the store to be going and be traveling to the other stores and coaching the employees. And so it's like dedicating a number of my hours each week to just helping each employee improve, not just with their customer service, which is the main focus, but also just all of it. You know what I mean? Like how to get to the next step kind of thing. Those conversations all happen within that.
That's a gigantic, unique lever that you get to pull.
Right.
That no one else gets to pull that lever.
Yeah, that's a really cool way of putting it too, because I was just talking to him before you guys showed up this is a perfect example of the step that we get to take too is I deliver transfers on Mondays, and it's a good way for me to pop by these stores, but my days have just gotten so overwhelming that it's like a lot of times I'm delivering products and I'm checking in with certain people and passing along certain information, grabbing a few things, and I'm out as quick as I can. And then it's like, hey, Kevin, did you realize that they had an R-rated movie on the TV? And I'm like, I didn't even know they had the TVs on
because I was
TVs. And so I stopped in at the Quail Springs location, and I popped by. I went to see our neighbors to check in on a couple of things and meet with them. And I dropped off products, and I had a conversation with Anthony and got to update him on a couple of things that I've been working on with him, and grabbed transfer products, and I was out. And on my way out, he was there working with the brand new guy, Mason, and explaining why, I think it was a little bit of a customer that he took and then a customer that Thomas took, and explaining why he did things a certain way. And it was like, that is beautiful. Like, because I don't have the time to sit here and listen to conversations and work with them on customer service. And I can explain in meeting all day long about why it's important and how generally to do things, but to be there on the floor with them working was such a cool thing to see. And I'm super, super excited for that element of even just a few hours a week to be able to have Thomas go around and work with them. And I think we'll be able to really tie a bow on our customer service with having that. So
that's an awesome place to be, is that our big shift this year for us has been good to great, with as many things as possible. And one of those things has just been watching sessions and being like, it's great. It's great.
Right.
It's great. And if there is an opportunity to move good to great, then it's a very simple tactical conversation of like, hey, blank and blank to Y to go over here to Z and see how this happened there. And like, yeah, I'm like, cool. All right.
Well, and it makes it so much easier too, like Kevin kind of touched on for a second, is like, it's kind of like, I don't know, to convey it to like a sport or something like that. It's like, I can sit in a meeting and tell you, I want you to do this, and I want you to move left, and then I want you to move right, and then I want you to go over here, and that's great. But it's like, when I watch you do it and you move right to left and then right, it's like, I can go, no. And I can grab you and I can move you and I can be, hey, you just did this. Here's how it feels to do it right. Like even because I coach jujitsu as well. And a big part of that coaching is like, I'm going to show you it. I'm going to let you do it to me, and then I'm going to do it to you. So what all three aspects, what it looks like, what it feels like to do, and what it feels like to receive. And it's like all of those things where if I'm just explaining that in a meeting or whatever, it's like, yeah, you can make sense of it, but it's like, it's a whole different feeling when you have like your actual hands on the situation, where it can be like, hey, like I can intervene at times, and not, abruptly or too intensely, but it's like, if there's a dead moment in, where just no conversation is happening, it's like, hey, here's like easy questions. Because, one of the big things I was touching on today is like, to have that stellar, want to give you a 5-star review interaction where you're mixing up proteins and you're laughing about, all these things, like that happens on the 8th question, not on the 2nd question. So if you give up on the 2nd question, you never get there. If you're a pitcher and you throw 2 balls, you don't step off the mound, you keep going, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, you got to find ways to just like make people open to talking to you. And that's just being a human, right? But it's, but when you can do that in the moment and show them like, hey, you saw me say this and you saw how much it perked this person up to just being more receptive to the store or people in general. Being able to do that, it's really exciting for me because it's something I'm super passionate about, obviously. But yeah, like being able to not just, hey, let's do it like this. It's like, let me show you, let you feel it kind of thing.
I like the mindset too of when you are watching how things are happening, how class is going, of that good to great, which is one book I have read. So but having that mindset of, and that's been something that I've learned is it can be implemented in really big ways that every problem is an opportunity in disguise. It can be major problems and major opportunities, or it can be tiny little things of the way an employee is taking a customer of it's not a problem, it's an opportunity. So I like the way that you put that. And that's been one thing that like I've definitely had to learn and I'm still learning today, that it's big and small, but trying to pass that to other people as well it's, I think, human nature to when you are looking at how things are going, and like even employees in the store looking on the back end and being like, hey, I think this is a problem, the way we're doing things on the back end, and this is how it's translating to the front of the store. And it's like, I do need to know about these things, but let's start thinking about it in the way of that is an opportunity for us to improve, because we've always done it that way, and we're still here today. So it's not this detrimental problem that's going to put us out of business within a matter of weeks. It's an opportunity to potentially get better. How do we use that to get better? So
Right.
I like that mindset a lot.
Right. Not trying to break the machine, just trying to tighten a couple screws here and there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not the end of the world that this is happening. So it's actually been happening for 8 years now. So.
Fun fact.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's been one thing I've been trying to pass along, again, with more and more people kind of coming more to the back end as well. So yeah. No, you guys have Tori, the general manager. Does she have a lot of back end responsibilities herself, I'm guessing?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Scheduling, I'm guessing.
Scheduling.
Okay.
Yes,
is definitely-
I bet that was
scheduling is a
nice to
big
pass
one.
along.
Yes.
Yeah, scheduling. We kind of scheduling is more or less seasonal for us.
Okay.
So it's not like a huge machine that we have to kind of like crank on too often.
It's really just like summer schedule versus school schedule.
Yeah, that's a big
Okay.
Like changing
And
it.
then
Yeah.
the overwatching the onboarding, since everyone at the studio who comes in gets onboarded PT sessions, that schedule gets so it's a daily, every single day, every single week.
So let's say that you came to Prevail and you signed up, right? And we're like, okay, now you have 5 personal training sessions. You can book them whenever you're available. And so if you're like, okay, I would like Tuesday between 3 and 6 p.m. And that gets like put in one Slack channel. And then Tori will like make sure that somebody grabs it.
That's her responsibility, is to
Yeah.
make sure someone's got. Okay.
And then she like uses a Trello board. Do you guys Trello?
No, you
heard
guys
of
have so
Trello?
many terms I'm not familiar
Lots of
with.
things.
I'm learning a lot
Anyway,
this
she
episode.
just makes sure that you travel along for your 5 sessions in
Okay.
like a certain amount of time.
Okay.
So that's like one big schedule thing that she like
Gotcha.
keeps track of.
Would you say that's tends to be her main responsibility, is making sure? What would you say is her the bulk of her responsibilities?
I'd say the bulk of her off-floor responsibility would be lead follow-up sales. It's probably going to be the vast majority.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then team, because CSM.
Yeah, and then all communications out to students through the CSM team she's in charge of.
Okay.
So all the customer service management, all that stuff gets
Yeah.
overviewed by her.
Yeah. No, that's I'm sure. Yeah, leads is obviously big for your type of business. Obviously, we are definitely more word of mouth and just fingers crossed people come in the door. So it's hard to track ROI on that. That's for sure. But I think that's something to not be understated is how much effort you have to put in to just get people to sign up or walk in the door in the first place. So that's one thing that we underestimated when we first started.
And
so.
so far we've learned that, and even with the group that we're in a business coaching group with several other gyms, all different types of fitness methodologies. And they're all kind of in the same range as us or bigger than us. And so a lot of the similar problems that we're having. And as it's counterintuitive, but as you grow, marketing gets harder. Which you would think would go the other direction. You would think it would become easier. And it's only gotten more difficult.
Yeah, it's you guys mentioned that earlier that you've had to kind of shift that a little bit. How so? Also, would you guys like any Sexton? Even just a little scooch?
I want a little bit. But I have to drink
I'll take
this
some.
first. Just like a tiny.
Just a tiny bit. I got you.
Oh, it's like dark.
This has been one of Thomas and I's favorites.
Yeah, that's really good.
Tinier than Sean's.
Maybe a little bit more. Here, I'll pour a little in.
There we go. Perfect.
Goodness, Kevin. We'll edit that out.
I'm just glad it was me.
Ryan, cut that out.
You sure you need that 2 finger you just poured?
I'll pour some in yours. I'll pour some of mine in yours. So yeah, how is how so? Because I feel like we're learning that as well. It's helping me realize that the way we used to market for one location works to a certain extent with multiple locations, but we are having to change it up. We aren't able to do certain things that we were able to do when it was just one location. We're a little bit limited in having to find new things with the overall growth. So
different demographics, like all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's like we had our like core people, and then word of mouth from those people like expanded, and then at some point you like run out of like word of mouth people.
yeah, that's,
almost.
that's
You know?
the counterintuitive part. Is you would think the more people you have, the more word of mouth you have.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true, but then it seems like, and as we're tracking lots of data and plenty of spreadsheets, lots of numbers all over the place,
Excel
right?
starts to get more and more fun as you get older, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Never thought I'd spend so much time on spreadsheets.
I hate them.
I've learned to love them. Honestly.
I hate them.
I
Unless
love
I can like
spreadsheets.
put colors on the boxes.
There you go.
I think spreadsheets. We look at them all the time. But on the marketing side, it's like the people that now we're talking to, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is that it's people who now, when you talk to them, it's most likely the first time they've heard you. Before, it was probably like the second or third or fourth time that they've heard you. And now it's like in order to get into a bigger market or to get deeper into a certain market, you're talking to more and more people who've never heard about you.
Yeah.
We call them cold.
Yeah, super cold audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part where you're like your existing clientele, your existing people that are coming in, you're like, okay, but your neighbor doesn't know who we are. And then you talk to the neighbor and they're like, who are you guys?
Right.
And
Like,
they don't
well-
know how cool we are yet.
Right.
You know, they don't know all
That's
of
a
these
tough
things.
thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
If
hard.
they've never been inside your store and
Right.
they're like, supplement store,
Right.
some bros. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, it's different. And they're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, right, though.
Right.
Yeah, you talk to 10 customers in a row that have been shopping with you for years, and you're like, all right, everybody knows we're the shit. And then you get one person that walks in for the first time, and they're like, don't talk to me. And you're like, I'm cool. I thought everybody thought I was cool.
Yes.
It's a humbling experience.
It
That's
is.
for sure.
That is
So-
like a big part of our training too, is like
Yeah.
teaching people that like, hey, they don't know us from Adam, man. And
Yeah.
like,
Right.
they're used to this used car salesman style of supplements, and like they don't know we're not that. So now here's your opportunity to show them. But it's like, don't take rejection too hard, because
I know.
like it
Right.
can be tough.
I know we already said this, but our people all the time, they'll be asking about protein powders, and I'm like, just go talk to them. I promise. They're not trying to sell you a
Right.
million things. They're so nice.
And that's huge to
So
have.
hard.
That's our word of mouth, as people
Yes.
vouching
Those
for
advocates.
for us doing things, at least trying to do things the right way, is because we can say that all day long. We can run ads talking about that. We can talk to people at sample events and tell them that's how we are in store. And we can only convince people a certain amount. But when we have other people in the community, like you guys saying that, that's what validates that's what actually makes people believe that that's true. So.
It's we've coined our phrase for it is proxy trust, right? It's like, they don't trust us yet because they don't know us, but they trust you, Dani, and they trust you, Sean. Right. So it's like when they hear you guys talk highly and they hear, whoever, that's when they're like, okay, well, if they think this, then okay, cool. Like it's got to be true then.
Yeah. I think it's just so intimidating. Walking into a gym that you don't know, walking into a supplement store you don't know.
Amen.
You forget that for sure. Yeah. And that's one thing, it's I already know that we're going to be working on with employees now is remember like how difficult, like think about your mom stepping into a different supplement store for the first time, like how like nervous she might be to do that. So.
Right. Or anyone that would be, in our industry or your industry that's normally there. Like think about a completely opposite industry that you would walk into. And like if a supplement store, if you think like an Anthony, right? Or someone newer, I don't think of like even an Ian or something, right?
Ian's a great, we can make a lot of fun of him.
Yeah.
No, he's so nice.
I mean, Ian's pretty humble, so he probably would never really be in a position to get uncomfortable. But if it was something that was a skill that's 100% new to him, right? Like if he'd never been in a swimming pool before and he showed up to a swimming class, like how would you feel walking into that room?
Right.
I'd be nervous.
Right. Or if he's like, hey, by the way, you're going to go into this room and learn about public speaking. And you'd be like,
yeah, right.
What? Well, that's how people feel when they're walking into a gym or to a supplement store.
Right.
They feel that intensity
that
you feel when you go somewhere that's uncomfortable.
Right.
Easy to forget.
We talk about it a lot in jiu-jitsu, and I think we even brought this up on the last podcast, but it's like, jiu-jitsu is a very long road. It takes typically 10, most often about 12 years to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It is an extremely long process. And the like going question is always like, what's the hardest belt to get in jiu-jitsu? And everybody always says black belt, right? And it's not. It's white belt. Right. It's walking in the door the first time. That's the hardest thing you're going to do here. Yeah. All you have to do to get a black belt is show up for 12 years. Like just make it part of your routine and you'll get one eventually, right? Yeah. But it's like you having the, walking into a supplement store, walking into a public speaking class, walking into a different style of gym. It's like, that is so intimidating. And it's easy for, I think, and I think we're all good at realizing this, but it is like, people who are used to it or people who have done it for a long time, it's like, it's just a part of what we do. I'm not intimidated to walk into a supplement store, like, you know what I mean? But, I can tell you right now, I am more than intimidating every time I have to sit on the meeting with our wedding planner. And I'm like, there's so many kinds of flowers. Like, why are there so many kinds? I thought they were just colors. Like, what's happening? And they're like, no, like, this is a different. And they're like, are we doing this? And I'm like, I've never even heard of that. Like, what are you talking about? Please be the expert for me.
Be the expert for me. Yes. Yeah.
So with having, do you guys feel like you've gotten to this position where it's a lot of people that haven't heard about you because you've kind of, do you feel like you've reached some like barriers or borders as far as like certain demographics or groups or?
No, I think that there's just so many people that, like, even if we go to let's just say that we drop into a networking event or something wild like that, right? And we go
Which
to
are
like
terrible, by the way.
they are what they are, right? And we've started to re-implement that into us. We've started to do more of this old school guerrilla things that we used to do when we first had to grow, and we're starting to re-implement a lot of these like super guerrilla tabling, like talking to humans face to face stuff. But we'll go to an event, and we went to an event that was right next door at Cafe 7, right? And we're there 5 days a week for like 7 years now, right? Eating salads forever. And there's a networking
We see you guys
event.
in the parking lot pretty much every day.
Every day, right? And we go over next door, and 40 or 50 people in this room, and we're like, hey, we're Prevail, and no one there knows who we are.
Right.
And it makes you go, man, they all live like right around here.
Yeah.
And they have no clue who we are.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not that it's not that as we grow and as we continue to grow the membership, there's normal attrition, that's all those other like predictable numbers. And you have to be getting more and more and more people every single time. It's like, I've got to get to people who, even though we've been loud and we've been somewhat times a little aggressive in our marketing, right? That
gotta be sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, maybe a little too much. We've
You gotta find the line, know where it is.
Yeah.
we've kind of pulled back
We've
a
been
little bit, but
Yeah.
it's like there's so much noise going on with everyone's life that it's just they haven't, even if it's come across them, they've been distracted. They've been too busy for this. They've been doing that. They've been focused on this and all the things that everyone else is doing in their regular lives. If we're not
Like if you're not looking for it.
right, if the pain point of fitness and health from application, either one of our applications, right? If that's not a high pain point, we're not even on their radar.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes
and
sense.
so it's like, how do we get on these people's radars? Some of that, like talking a little aggressive, and some pieces that I've definitely calmed down with the marketing over the years is that.
Was there any particular person that helped with that?
I'm like, are you
Lots of
talking
people.
shit on Facebook again? I like to see him over there. I'm like, not today.
delete.
My mom will text me and be like, Sean just cussed on his Facebook. Damn it, Sean.
Yeah,
You guys are a great yin and yang.
yeah. I've definitely pulled back a little bit, but it's easy for either one of us. It's easy to go, we're better than them.
Yeah.
It's super easy to do, and it doesn't even mean anything really when you like really get down to it. You're like, better at them at what? For who? For why?
Right.
But it's easy to initially go there, right? But the hard part is that it's not about being better than the other people in our industry, because we're only talking to 10 to 15, maybe 20% of the community. So what is the other 80% of the community doing that we're not talking to? That 80% of the community doesn't feel like they can easily communicate with us, and that's a problem.
Right.
It's not that we're like, oh, we're better than that store. We're better than that store. We do it better than that gym. We do it better than that gym. And you're like, well, we're just talking to the same 10% of people over and over and over again.
Right.
Now with the marketing, it's like, how do we talk to 80% of people who aren't doing anything?
Right.
And how do you talk to them that's approachable,
Yep.
that's professional, that still speaks loud enough to where they hear you?
Yeah.
Because you can't be soft and passive about that either at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't be like, well, we kind of like protein powders.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So, where do you draw that line so that you talk loud enough and specific enough to those 80% people so they start taking action?
Right. No, that makes sense. It's a super interesting thing that you said when you were talking about just like being on people's radar, because I think this is always like a really solid one, because like obviously I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 4.5 years. This is something that's very much on my radar. In the metro, how many jiu-jitsu gyms do you think exist?
A million. I see them everywhere.
15, 20.
There are 32
Yep.
in the metro.
Yeah.
And you're
Shoulda
like,
guessed.
32?
32. I see them
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah, and it's like, that's if it's not on your radar, like you'd have no idea. Like I've asked people that question, they're like,
Yes.
I don't know, 4? And I'm like, nope.
32.
There are 32 in the metro that offer jiu-jitsu as something that they offer. And so it's so true, because like if you're not on that radar within that demographic for one reason or another, it's like, why would they know? You know what I mean? Or it's like, if it's just something you're not into, how many golf stores are there? Or how many
Right.
whatever?
How many
Right.
businesses do you pass as you're just driving down the road?
Right,
So, yeah,
right.
You can't, it's next to impossible to recognize all of them.
How
So,
many
yeah.
like outdoor activity specific stores are there in the metro? And it's like, well, we all kind of do some of that stuff, so we know, it's like we know where to go
Yeah.
and like where there's different things. But it's like, if you were to ask me, how many florists there are in Oklahoma City, I'd be like, 1,000? I don't know, like somewhere between 5 and 1,000. Like,
yeah. And so that's the part about marketing that's a stretch for us right now, is you think, all right, well, it makes logical sense for a supplement store to go to a gym,
yeah,
right? It makes sense that a gym would go to a supplement store, basically,
Right.
right?
Right.
A little bit, but then you start thinking like, well, where are people hanging out that aren't doing those things. Like
Yet.
if I was a supplement store, what do people do at the dance studio?
Yeah,
You're like,
Yeah.
then you're
or
saying,
the corporate offices, like those
exactly.
kind of things.
Right. You're like, do florists need protein powder?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Pro-
seriously,
why not?
though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I love that. Yeah, that looking at the overall opportunity, not just it's so easy. I think it's human nature, and that's I know we got caught in that when we first started. Was when we started the business, we had all these things of why we thought we could provide a better experience and a better store for people, and we did all of those things, and when our marketing wasn't paying off right off the bat, it was easy to get caught in this mindset of okay, well, we're seeing these other stores like do decently, what are they doing? And it was just so easy to start competing for their customers, and it was just like, why are we doing that? Like we got into this business not to do what they're doing better, we got in it to do it completely differently. Right. And we need to stick to that and focus on that. And that genuinely really helped us a lot in growing and getting past some plateaus. Yeah. And I think it really helped me realize like how much potential, kind of the same way you started or talked about it, is there's 80% of people that aren't doing anything right now. How do we reach those? And I think it helped me to be right there on May Avenue, because I remember driving to work one morning and being like, there are so many cars on the road right now. And that is just this moment right now. Yeah. It is this way all day long. And I'm like, there are so many people. Like it's like I feel like a lot of them would probably benefit from having a protein powder or a multivitamin. There's probably a lot that takes some kind of even just basic supplement. Like, how do we reach these people? Yep. So,
we do that all the time. We're like, there's 8 people in the 6 p.m. session. Look at all these people driving by.
There's so many cars coming.
Well, that's like, it's so funny because I feel like it's something that, I don't know if it's overly spoken about, but it's kind of like a way that we've tried to look at it over the years. But it is like, people are always like, oh, are you marketing towards, the traditional like gym bro that like eats dumbbells for breakfast kind of thing? And we're like, yeah, but also no, because like that's like already the demographic that's seeking us out. I want to, like Kevin was talking about, I want to be seeking out the demographic of my grandmother who doesn't understand the benefit of protein, let alone powder, like protein. And then it's like, if I can educate her and then show her how easy it is to up her protein with things like powder, then it's like, okay, cool. And show them the benefits. It's like, no, it's like the traditional like gym bro. I'm going to check out every new supplement store in town as soon as they open because that's just what I do. Like those are almost I don't want to say a gimme, but like those are the people who are gonna walk in, where it's like, no, let's instead of like spending all of our marketing, not just dollars but time on that demographic that's already seeking us out, let's like shoot it out to the 80% of everybody else who like would never think to walk in here. Right.
Because the 80% of people, like 100% of them aren't eating enough protein.
Right.
It's like, it's not like, oh, well, you're probably doing okay. Yeah. No, it's highly likely. Yeah, and all of you.
Like I get 20 grams of protein a day, 1 day a week, and I'm like, oh, okay, we need more than that. Like a lot more than that.
Just a little bit would go a long way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's my favorite. Like I had an egg yesterday. I'm like, 1 egg.
I had 7 for breakfast.
So with that 80%, have you guys found things that have helped you reach that 80%? Because you talked about having more cold people that are just hearing about you for the first time. Have you found other ways of marketing to that 80%?
I mean, it's still a giant experiment for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the fun part, though.
Yeah, I think we keep trying to think more and more outside of the box with where would you least expect to see us? So little things like, like you would not expect us to see us at mile 19 of the marathon handing out whiskey shots, right? Like that's like
I politely declined.
You stand out by doing that, though.
Right, it's like, what do they do? Who are they?
We had Fruit Loops too.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I should have got some.
You missed
Loops.
out.
Hey. I said hi.
Yeah. No worries. I think other things that we're trying to do is, and part of our social marketing and paid marketing is we're trying to speak more towards those 80% of those pain points of like why they're not getting exercise in, and trying to build more content around like that piece of what are the 80% of people who aren't doing anything? What are they thinking? What is it that they assume?
Right.
What did they kind of like?
What if they tried?
What's the
maybe
boogeyman in the
before?
closet for them?
Those are
Right,
tough
and-
questions.
Yeah, it's really hard, and it's kind of like, well, why aren't you exercising?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't care to. And you're like, oh, okay, but why don't you care to? And you're like, I just don't give a shit. And you're like, all right, very well. Next person.
Right,
You know, like,
right.
It's just, you're just having this conversation over and over and over again about like, well, how do we, something wild like we're testing right now is we're holding a mahjong tournament in studio to public. Right? Do you know what mahjong is?
I don't
Yeah.
Okay, see,
Yeah.
this is very interesting too because
This loser over here doesn't know mahjong. Come on, dude.
whoever knows
I mean,
mahjong
I don't know how to play.
knows
so.
mahjong.
Yeah,
And
right.
everyone else is
It's like a thing.
What are you speaking about? But
Mahjong.
I have a feeling this game is going to blow up. By the way, I just have a feeling.
Put your money on
It
mahjong,
has
folks.
been blowing up. So if
It's
you
everywhere.
Yeah,
Invest
if you
in
look up at
Mahjong.
anything right now, there's like people that host these games in the city, in Edmond, Oklahoma City, and you can buy an $85 ticket to go play mahjong because
learn.
you need 4 people to play.
Right.
So it's this, like,
breweries-
buy-in.
Yeah, breweries are hosting
American
buy-in
Solero
nights just
has
to
one.
come pay to have a place to play with other people.
Yes.
Because imagine if you were to
hold your
play
spot.
pickleball, but you're like solo all the time. And you're like, golly, where can I go and find 3 other people to play pickleball with? But I can only play with 3 other people. Mahjong is very similar.
Yeah.
And we've heard it
See,
from
this isn't on my radar. I didn't know. I know mahjong, but I don't know all this.
Right. We've heard
a new
rumblings.
thing.
We've heard these conversations. And so we were hearing instructors talk about it. And I was like, let's just host it here at the studio. What time do they want to come in? What
Right.
do we need? Like, how much space do they need? What do you need to do? And
Where do
so
we get the tiles?
Right. It's like, so we hosted an in-studio one and had a fairly good turnout of like, learn how to play a game. And then we're going to repeat that with an external one that's like a donations-based submission to come in. Like,
Mahjong for mutts.
yeah, right. And so it's like come in and play, and all we're doing is we're creating an environment to where they can play at.
Yeah.
So all we're gonna do is provide the tables and the tiles.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just going to be at a time of the day where the studio's empty anyways.
Are you sorry? Are you charging, or are you letting people do it for free? Or
Well, we're charging, but it's 100% of that is going towards donation.
Makes sense.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So
okay.
we have like an intake, like actual
help promote. Yeah,
application. So
get people in the door.
Right.
Promote like people. It builds more attention on the event in the first place by it being donation. Right. Sorry.
Right.
But
That's
it's a
super
place
interesting.
to play and with other people to
Yeah.
play, and we'll provide like some mimosas and
Yeah.
croix or whatever.
yeah.
Show them, and I'm sure there's plenty of members that are probably showing up. I would
sure there's
assume,
gonna
and like they get to know the other people that are there.
Right.
That's super creative. I like that a lot. It's I think we're trying to kind of get in that mindset as well of a lot with the ambassadors that we're bringing on with Define as we're starting to branch outside of like just the gym goer that's posting about their fitness journey on Instagram.
Yeah.
And we're getting into people that, like, I think we looked at somebody that was generally like a health conscious person that did home renovations.
Right.
And
We looked at a blogger who
looked at a
like,
blogger.
She
Yeah.
talks about fitness and shows like fitness, and she's in good shape, but it's like she blogs in the Dallas area about like all the stuff that she does.
And I think we've gotten one I think really good parallel is the giveaways that we've been doing recently.
Right, yeah.
The where we still will implement ones where it's just a triad gift card and like, comment, share kind of deal. And it definitely interests the people that are interested in supplements. But we've started to get a little bit more creative with them in the sense of on the Define side of things, we know Ninja Creamies have been getting super popular.
Love
So
the Ninja Cream.
we gave one away, and it was cool because Ryan was talking to me the other day about all the followers that we gained from it, and it was a very different demographic than than what we're traditionally seeing on new followers on the defined side of things. And like today we did, apparently everybody's playing PS5 and college football 25 now. So it's we did, because that's super popular. It's we're hoping that, obviously there'll be a decent amount of customers that are already interested in that, but hopefully we're reaching some other people that are also playing this game, but maybe aren't super familiar with what Triad is or what we provide or that sort of thing. So
yeah, that gap between, this, a part of this experiment with the Mahjong thing is that I think the gap of this 80%, especially for all of us, is the product of a protein powder, the product of string chaining is only delivered via people.
Yeah.
And if we can just get people to talk to our people first, without the assumption of exercise, without the assumption of taking protein powder, just get to know who we are.
Yep.
We'll talk about that stuff later on, or just come into our space, get a vibe for the feeling you have when you're here. If you walk into the space and you're like, oh, this isn't what I felt it was, but I only walked in here because I wasn't coming in here for protein powders. I wasn't coming in here for fitness. Or if we're going to places to where, like, if we're going to do something, we're going to try to go somewhere and we're not going to ask to do fitness there. We're just going to talk about anything that would be valuable to the people. We're not putting that pressure on the 80% of people to have to do something they're not ready for.
Right.
But we're just saying, hey, here we are. Hi.
Right.
Hi.
Just know that we exist.
Right. Just want to say hi.
Recognize our logo.
I feel like you're hitting two types of people too. The ones that you talked about with like the high pain points of they are on the brink of needing something or wanting to jump into something fitness related. But I think also like there's probably potential for those people to make genuine friendships, and people tend to do just what their friends do. So if all their friends are going to Prevail, they're probably going to sign up at Prevail as well and get healthier without even that being necessarily a goal, which is awesome.
Yeah. I just had a random idea, but you should do a grandma giveaway for protein.
A what?
Grandma giveaway.
Grandma giveaway?
Whose grandma are we giving away?
It's going to be my
Are you donating your grandma to give away? Because
I like alliterations. And I was like, how could you get people to want to give the protein powder to their grandma? How could you reach the
elaborate on this
home?
Grandma giveaway though.
There's something there. It'll come to
Grandma giveaway. Okay,
whoever brings in the most grandmas gets a Ninja Creamy.
Bring in your grandma. Ninja Creamy for you and your grandma.
But it is funny, like a big one that we do a lot too, just like sticking with this theme, is like we've been doing more and more like health fairs, like big corporation health fairs, like things like that, because you're going to talk to, we talk to customers who already shop with us that love us. But then there's a whole, I just did one recently where I probably talked to legitimately 400 people all in a line, and then just a group of 4 or 5 of them would stop at my table, see everything I had, and I would just blah, 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 blah. This is Triad, right? And so then that group and just did that over and over all day. But it's like how many people you get to see that like would for no other reason would we ever fall onto their radar, right? Like we could try as many targeted ads as we want and maybe eventually get there, but it's like, hey, your work is giving you a free hour where you don't have to work. And if you walk through this line, they're going to give you a pair of headphones at the end. So you're stoked about that. So you're going to listen to everything. But it's just, again, it's just like association. If you ever are looking for this, and let me tell you a couple of the things that we do differently. Hey, here's a free shake pass. Like this allows you to just come by and try something. So you have to buy a whole big old tub of it just to see if you even like it. And it's like trying in those opportunities where you're meeting with somebody who's maybe not part of your traditional demographic of like, hey, let me strip away as many of those scary things as possible in my 30 seconds that I'm going to have with you of like, hey, here's why we're not scary, right? It's essentially the message I'm giving. And it's like, I promise we're a totally cool place to walk into, and let me tell you why. And so...
And you just do that by being friendly too.
Yeah.
That's cool that you understand that's a priority number one at an event like that.
Right. Yeah. Is like, hey, you know what? Like that's why our free shake passes work so well for us is it's like, hey, you've probably thought about or been interested in this at some point in your life, but you're worried about having to buy some big old container of it to even know if you like it. Hey, and let me give you one of these. There's all of our locations on it and allows you to just come by and just try something. No pressure to buy anything. Just see if it's even something for you. And people will be like, oh, okay. And I'll be like, And to be honest, we sample every day. This coupon just makes you feel more comfortable to come by. And they're like, and I'm like, I literally had a lady yesterday, I sampled 7 different proteins to until she found one she liked. Like literally 7. But it's like at the end of the day, like she left happy. But it's like, so it's just like stripping those things away of like, hey, like come check it out. You know what I mean? If you come check it out, because like you said, like, I just need you to come talk to you people, talk to our people, and you'll understand. And it's like, but that like getting them to cross that river is the toughest part.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're always like, we don't do burpees, we don't do box jumps, you don't have to die in a puddle of sweat. We're lifting weight.
Right.
Everyone has a painted picture of what they think of these industries.
What?
Oh yeah.
You know?
No, it's that honestly that starts to make a lot of sense because like I feel like I know like you guys in my like part of who you are and from my point of view is the people that are very against burpees. Yeah. And it's like I think it's like you very much have kind of made it part of your thing and like and it's
I'm also anti-burpee.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
But like I feel like that it's making more sense now of like if you can tell people like hey, like come try a class, we won't make you do burpees. It's like that probably is like something that's in some people's head of like
stripped away a boogeyman.
Right, exactly. And there's probably a few of those, but you've taken away probably one of the big ones. Like I know like telling people like helping people with like dieting or like just general nutrition advice, and they're like, hey, here it looks like it says one of these options for breakfast is eggs. Like, do I have to eat those boiled? And it's like, no, why would you have to like why are you just it's just funny like people start to assume
already
and think
made this
about
assumption.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the origin story behind Burpee Sober is that it was not a mechanical reason, like an exercise physiology reason. Right. I saw it as the icon of the intensity of industry.
Right.
And so back whenever that year was, I don't know, 15 or something like that, 16, I kept seeing that, and that was a problem. We were just then really starting to understand how to implement strength training smartly into group exercise.
Yeah, because I was going to say my first class with you, I'm pretty sure we ended with 100 burpees.
I mean, whoever was at Red Rock with me, you did your fair share of burpees.
We covered everybody for the rest of time. Yeah, we're good.
We did them. I mean, and people, you know, I love arguing with people anyways, but just generally.
What?
Yeah, just because.
So we've heard cussing on Facebook.
Like in some of those conversations, I'm like, at one point, I tried to see how many burpees I could do in 1 hour because that's how many burpees I was doing at this time. Like I was doing them all the time. I did 562 burpees. Cranked them out, right?
Yeah, terrible. Sounds terrible.
So it wasn't that I didn't think about it as an exercise modality, but what I kept seeing was in conversations, and I was like, I've got to draw the line in the sand, and I've got to make a hard like yes, no, and I got to pick something that's going to be this icon of that side of the industry. And so I was like, I'm going to pick the burpee. And I was also going through a little bit of education at the time where I went to a conference and this guy was talking, it was a gym owners conference, but he was talking about the programming side and delivering the product. And like, can you get 3 whys deep in all of your programming decisions? So when you program something, what's the why behind that that exercise selection, this, whatever it was.
Right.
And then can you get a second why deep and a third why deep?
Yeah. Right.
And at that time, I was looking around and like half the programming at the time was like, make them tired, make them tired, make them tired. They want to be tired. They want to be tired. And it kept getting to like they. And I was like, why am I, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why am I, that's not what I believe in. I'm just like doing it because I think that's what they think they want to do.
Yeah.
And so the burpee was one of those things. And I was like, all right. Never again.
Yeah.
And that was the point was I was like, now that we can say burpee sober, that immediately puts us in a camp of not the normal intensity based exercise that group fitness is. Not that there's anything wrong with that side of the industry. It has its place.
Right. You're not arguing against the modality like you said.
Right. It's like, I used to. And I was like, I shouldn't do that anymore.
It'd be like, it's a shit exercise.
I used to make these
programmed
posts.
by lazy trainers.
Also, the person that holds the burpee record.
King Burp over here.
Like burpees are only programmed by lazy trainers. And I remember just getting blown up.
I mean, he would be over there just like
just arguing with people for no reason.
This guy's talking shit.
And I was like, maybe I shouldn't say that. I should just say that like we don't do them. But the Burpee Sober was not like a mechanical programming thing. It was a marketing thing.
Right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think there's like legitimate reasons. Like it plays into like the idea of you being more intentional with the program and the workouts themselves, but also I feel like that helps you, which was honestly kind of answers at least part of my question of one, how are you reaching that 80% of people that aren't working out at all, and then how are you converting them to come by the gym and being Burpee Sober? That's a great term, by the way. I feel like it's super. It stands out quite a bit. But it's not negative by any means.
Right.
It's more positive. Sober being a more positive, kind of.
It reminds me, like, one of the big things for us, because it's funny because it's kind of a very, very similar thing. But it's like when we talk to people like, hey, we're not a commission-based store. There's nothing wrong with commission. Commission is a totally fine payment structure.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it. But by me saying that, what I'm explaining to you is that, like, I don't have an incentive, right? I'm stripping away my incentive for, me being the quote unquote expert and you being the quote unquote layman, is that I'm not going to take advantage of that situation because I don't have a reason to. It's the same thing for you guys. It's like, there's not anything necessarily quote unquote wrong with a burpee, but it's me just explaining that, like, hey, I'm not just trying to kill you. Like we're putting like a thoughtful process into what our programming is.
Be more efficient.
Right.
Yeah, with the effort that we're putting in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like,
Intentional.
imagine going to a car lot and the guy was just there to teach you about cars.
Right, 1,000%. Like, right. Thank you.
There's gonna be the first Slack channel. So imagine you're a car salesman.
Yeah, we got a lot to do after this episode, that's for sure.
But for real, though, I mean, that's what we try to do, and so it's but that's where we're trying to like convey that message in is like as short a way as possible. Is like I'll say it like, hey, we're a locally owned supplement store. We're a non-commission based, so nobody has any incentive to like try to sell you something, and then blah 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 whatever. If I am, if I have a block of time just to talk to somebody real quick, and so it's like, but again, we're just conveying that message of like, hey, you're worried about having to buy something big that you might not like. You're worried that I'm going to try to take advantage of the situation, and I know you have to trust me when I say this, but I am just trying to communicate that is not what we're about. In fact, we exist because we hated that. Like we exist because that was like nails on a chalkboard to us. We wanted to create something that was the antithesis to that. Like we wanted to be the opposite.
Is there anything else that you guys have implemented to outside of the Burpee Sober to when you're talking to these cold people that are just hearing about you for the first time? Cold people, not zombies.
They're dead.
but
the colds.
But when you're talking to these people that have heard about you, are just hearing about you for the first time, is there anything else that you guys have implemented as far as marketing or conversion that have helped those people come into the doors the first time and try a class for the first time?
Yeah. Oof. Well, actually, it's learning. Part of that is learning that trying class for the first time is the last thing they want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been something we've learned and tested, is that audience doesn't care to come try a class. That actually sounds like a nightmare to that audience.
That's really interesting because, I mean, I hear legitimately so many times people like, yeah, come in, first class is free. Yeah. And like, that's their call to action.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really interesting to hear because I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it's a weird taught. Choose my words. I think that it's an easy play to repeat.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice
it's an easy it's an easy playbook to be like, okay, yeah. A week for us, a week on us, and you're like, yep, go, okay. But at the same time, like, yes, the industry is growing, but I mean, you guys probably have a much better perspective on the
but they're
actual
not
industry.
working out because of the cost. I feel like for most people, that's like the barrier to entry. I feel like isn't always cost. It is more of a desire to do.
It's way more of a desire.
Like you can find a cheap gym. You can find cheap fitness. You know what I mean?
Makes sense. That's enticing for someone that owns the gym of like, oh yeah, one free class. That sounds awesome to me.
Yeah.
But
this is definitely stolen from some other people, whoever we listen to, but there's a difference between someone who's starting their fitness and someone who's looking for an evolution to their fitness. And same thing with like all these parallels with you guys, like someone who's looking to improve their supplement routine compared to the person who's trying to start their supplement routine. That's a completely different demographic.
Oh, yeah.
And how you speak to them is completely different at the same time. So saying, yeah, come try a class, all those people are like, I do not want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
I do not want to come try a class. Now they may want to be more like, I mean, one part of our conversation with those leads is giving, this has changed this year too. A lot has changed in the last like year to 18, 24 months. The way marketing and the conversations are, everything is shifting and something's going on. We can't really figure out why, but everything is shifting. And people want, it feels like most people like want more than one track to get to where they want to go. Right? We can't just assume that everyone wants a free session. We can't assume that everyone wants a free protein. Like everyone wants a free shake, right? So it's hard to like step back away from that and go, well, maybe they just want to have a conversation. Like maybe that's all they want is just to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe all they want is a conversation over the phone. Maybe all they really want is to come into the studio and just meet us face to face.
Just look at it.
With no expectations.
Right.
Like, let's just come in, have a conversation, and we're just going to talk about who you are, who we are, where you want to go, whether or not we meet in the middle, and trying to repeat that as often as possible. We're trying to get better and better about that.
That's interesting. You know, that brings a parallel of something that we've used and that I use a decent amount in like customer service training is quit trying to date them on the first day you meet them, right? Like you're not trying to make this person you met today your girlfriend, right? They want to get to know, they want to have these conversations. So it's like, quit trying to, or, you know, like, quit trying to win the war today, right? Like, we're just happy they're here. Just be happy they walked in. Like, geez, like don't, like, the last thing we need to worry about is like, you know, are they taking the regimen of things that we would recommend? You know what I mean? It's like, that's great and all, and we can get there, but like lose the battle, win the war, you know, like let's like quit trying to date them the first time you meet them. Like let's warm up to this idea. Let's get them talking.
Make the cold people warm.
That's right. We got to warm up the colds. That's right.
Warm up the cold people.
And turn the zombies back into real life people.
But it's just like, hey, like come in and let's just have a harmless conversation. Like let's just talk. Let's explore what you're doing. Maybe talk a little bit. Maybe talk nothing about supplements. Maybe talk about, you know, like the whatever's on TV, the weather, what book you're reading, what TV show you're watching. Let's just show that we are human beings interacting with human beings. And then maybe you'll be like, cool, because we have people coming, I just want to check the place out. Okay, cool. Like, what have you been up to today? You know, like, oh, you know, I just dropped off my daughter or whatever, you know, and it's like, cool, let's have a conversation about that. Like, let's talk about just life. And then we can kind of get to a point where you'll leave and be like, you know, those triad boys are kind of nice. And then next time you may be a little bit more warm to the idea of coming in and actually starting to experiment with these things. But like, you don't try to kiss them today. Like, let's get to know them a little bit.
Yeah. That part of sales is what everyone before us in the industry has forced sales on people. So now people are afraid of sales, and then we try to teach people sales, and they have that same stigma behind sales,
like an icky feeling,
right? This icky feeling about sales, but you're like, sales is not what you think sales is, not what you've been taught. And then there are people in the past who have probably painted that picture of what forced sales is. But my job as sales is to explain our solution, to make you very clear about your problem. And then this is the gap between those two things. If it's something you want to take advantage of, great. If it's not, great. Like whatever. I mean, I'm just stoked that you're very clear about either this is a hard yes or a hard no. And then I've done my job. I'm not here to push a sale on you.
Right.
Yeah. I think so many people walk into those environments like it's going to be a car dealership, and they're like, "Oh, as soon as I walk in,
guarded.
I'm gonna get sold to."
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like the old like tanning place where you like, I don't know, in college.
This isn't
like,
on my radar.
Sign up for like a tanning booth, and it's like the worst contract to get out of ever. What is that? At the beach?
Yeah.
Was it at the beach? It was at the beach.
But there's
I
lots
bet
of
all
stuff.
our female listeners are like,
Yes. And then it's like, you can't get out of it.
Yeah, but that is
Right.
how it is. I mean, you find those things all the time where it's just like they're just trying
Terrible.
to. You just sign your name right
You just
here.
sign your name.
Like I remember,
Some deal.
I worked, in between moving from Springfield down here. I worked insurance for a little bit. And there is good insurance, and there are insurance salesmen, and there's bad insurance salesmen. And I just remember like being in situations that like the guy who was training me and showing me the ropes, and it just making me literally feel sick, like listening to this guy. And it was like we had a situation where we sold 10-year auto renewal, like term life insurance policies, right? Mm-hmm. So what he would do is sell them and explain them as 20-year life insurance, like term policies, right? So what happens though is you get priced now at, let's say you're 45 and it's $60 a month because you're 45 and your chances of dying are very low, right? And then in 10 years, they don't know it auto renews. They think it's a 20-year, but it's actually a 10-year auto renewal. Well, the problem is at 10 years, it re-ups to your new age and drastically drives up like your premium price, right? So you end up going from paying $60 a month to like $200 a month, right? But because he never explained any of this to you, you had no idea that it was going to auto renew in 10 years if you didn't cancel it. So in 10 years, all of a sudden, your insurance payment went from $60 a month to $250 or whatever it was going to be. And I remember looking at it and being like, well, that's not how it works. Like it's not a 20-year, it's like a 10-year, like, but it renews, I guess, on its own. And he's like, what are they going to do? Fine me in 10 years? And I'm like, Jesus, dude. Like,
I hate people.
Right. But that's like the thing is like, there is this whole like, I don't want to say generation, but it's like not just like people and ages, but like literally this whole like era of sales that was just designed around like, how do I trick you? Yeah. And as soon as I trick you, or he had another situation where he was telling people, some people would be like, well, I need to talk to my wife about this. It's a good amount of money or whatever. And he'd be like, well, hey, I'm not going to be here tomorrow, but here's what we can do. Go ahead and sign the contract now, and we can void it within 48 hours. Just get a hold of me. So talk to your wife and then let me know. And then as soon as they'd sign that contract, he'd turn his phone off, and you're never getting a hold of him again. You know what I mean? And it's like, have fun. You just signed a 10-year contract to send money this way every month. And I'd like, I quit immediately after that one trip. All of that happened in like one day. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm out of here, man. This is like the most soul sucking thing I've ever seen. And, but it's like, it's true. It's like, that's why people are so turned off to this, because they've seen that, they've heard that like the classic one is the used car salesman thing. Like, not all used car salesmen are bad. Plenty of car lots are great. But it's just one of those things where the stigma has been created because of this like era of sales that we have. Or it's like, it's funny you say, it's like, I don't want a sales job. I don't feel like I have a sales job. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't ever want it to feel like that, because that's not what it's supposed to be
more
about.
Education than
helping people.
Right. It's education first, sales second.
Right. Educate and help, and then the money happens, right? Like the sales come.
How do you now transitioning from not doing just your first class free to let's just have a conversation over the phone or in person? How do you convince these people to have that conversation in the first place, and convince them that you're not just going to try and hard sell them on?
It's so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really hard. I think part of the early conversations, depending where the intake is coming from, that obviously changes quite a bit of different things.
Sure.
And this is ongoing learning process all the time.
Absolutely.
Continuous.
The customer base changes too. Consumers change.
Consumers change. Consumer experiences change. I think that we're in a time earlier where I was talking about, I think we're in the time of like the most required flexibility ever than before. And I think that's what people expect, is to have a lot of flexibility in everything. So the tracks that's the hard part is like it's not like one script that gets implemented. It's like, well, it kind of depends where they're coming from, kind of depends on what our first contact was, kind of depends on the conversation. You know, if they come into the website and they just schedule it, then they've taken the action themselves.
Right.
So they've taken the action, they've scheduled something.
Right.
And even on that form that they're filling out for a conversation, the first thing it's going to say is, hey, drop your name, drop your information, and if you just want to get it on our radar, you can just stop here. If you want to continue on, you can schedule a session. You can schedule like an actual consultation, right?
Right.
So we're already giving them a little bit of direction of like, where do you want to go? Do you just want to know that you're out there, or do you really want to come in and say something? And then when they do say that, then there's a follow-up. But if we're talking to someone, it's a one-to-one conversation, in person, DMs, something like that. It's a little bit of a, who are you? Have you heard about us? Are you looking for a solution for your fitness? Are you currently exercising? And then it's just more of that same conversation of, there's a couple tracks we can go, right? If you're not doing anything, we would love just to show you the studio and get to learn more about you. Does that sound like something you would like? And then giving the person the control to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And just trying to get that as often as possible.
Yeah. It sounds like no matter what, there's going to be hurdles with getting people in the door in the first place.
Huge.
But sounds like there's a much higher rate of conversion with aiming to just have them in for a conversation as opposed to a first class.
Right.
For us specifically.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it might not work for everybody kind of deal.
Definitely
Unless,
not.
unless like we've just known them for a while and we know that they're really active, then sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm going to be taking the 4:30. Do you want to like join me?
Right.
You know, like make it like that.
Yeah,
But,
something you're doing with your friends
Right.
instead
Sometimes there's a little bit of creeping on the socials, depending, If you see them like, oh, they've gone to like, they've done this yoga and you can see they've done it quite often, or they've done the cycle bar thing. You're like, all right, well, they're super active already. Yeah. Then let's leverage a trial session or a trial week of like, hey, I see you're doing stuff. You would love to add strength training into your routine. This would be a great way for you to feel, like really get a feel for who we are.
Because those are the people who would appreciate the free week then.
Like trying it out.
Because those people, you're like, hey, would you like to come and have a conversation? They're like, no.
Can I work out?
About? Yeah.
Right, yeah. Why would I use that time that I could be working out?
Right.
Yeah, right.
I
Will I
be
sweat
something.
during?
Yeah.
If you get nervous, I guess.
I know.
It's
But
super difficult.
it really depends, because like people on Instagram or something, if they send me a message, like I talk to them differently than if it was through like the website.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Very situational. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think, and very much in the store, we handle things the same way of we're taking a little bit different approach depending on even just how confidently they walk in the door. And we generally have a playbook for each of those, but there's such a wide spectrum in just that facet of or that aspect of how confidently somebody walks in the door, let alone what are they wearing, what kind of age group do they look like they're in, or do they look like they are have been working out for a while,
fitness level,
what fitness level is the best way to put that. So that's super cool. So
I wish we had a better answer, because
those are great answers.
Because it would make things considerably better.
Yeah.
That's a big hurdle that we have right now. Like that's one of our biggest hurdles, is getting more of those conversations to happen.
Yeah. I like the general strategy, but I think if you were to sit here and say we do it exactly this way, then it wouldn't work for, it would only work for a certain niche of people.
Right.
Yeah. So
Like check back in 9 months.
But like,
we'll see where we're at.
I mean, I don't think if you were to give me that task of like figure out how you handle customers, I don't think I would be able to narrow it down to one specific thing in 9 months from now. So,
exactly like Kevin's saying. Like, there's people who come in the store and it's like, I have the advantage of been doing this on and off for 12 years. So when somebody walks in the store, I can get a pretty good read of like, do I talk about supplements? Do I talk about the weather? Or do I talk about sports? Or like, I can look at somebody and like, not that we're prejudging people, but it's like, I can make a pretty good assumption of like what direction this person's going to want to go in the conversation wise. And it's like, so it is like Kevin's saying, it's like, if you were to ask me, how do you take a customer? I'd be like, well, it depends. Like what shoes are they wearing, Kevin? Like, like there's a ton that goes into those kind of things.
Yeah, especially when you have a more developed sense of, or a more developed sensory acuity.
Yeah, well, there's so many intricacies between them. So I do like how you guys have like almost like levels of even commitment within just the like giving the information thing. Because you're like, hey, like I don't want you to feel like, because we all know, I've made the mistake of putting my actual phone number on a car insurance quote before, and then I'm like, I get 174 freaking calls a day for the next month of people being like, oh, you're looking for car insurance, right? I can get you the best deal in the world. And you're like, you can't, but it's fine. like, I'm never going to answer any of your phone calls, but thank you. And it's like, those things happen. Or like, I, God forbid, put my phone number on anything anymore. It's just some lead filler for them. And it's like, and I get it, but that is like nice, I think, again, for your like, autonomy of what you're talking about of like, hey, if you want us to contact you, here's the steps you do.
Right.
If you just want to put yourself on our radar, but you don't want to, they obviously, I know this is not you guys, but it's like from them, they don't know you yet. So it's like, I don't want to be lambasted with just like calls and texts and messages and emails and all these things. It's like, hey, I want a more delicate like invitation into this. I think that's really smart. And again, intentional of like how you guys try to handle things. Again, where it's like, this is who we are now because this is who we are in the gym.
Yeah.
I think we're past 2 hours.
We are. Just a little bit. Not bad. It's crazy how fast it goes by, right?
Whoops.
Yeah.
These like headphones are just magic.
Yeah.
I know, right?
On the way here, I was like, I hope they don't like, I want to talk about fitness because we need more time.
I feel like we touched on some cool stuff, man. This was actually a really, really, really fun conversation.
This was great.
Yeah, no, that's you guys did awesome. This was a fantastic episode. Is there anything else you would like to share, talk about, or
plug away?
Yeah.
Plug away.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah. I think that if you are, oh man, so many things. Look, you're probably not in the 80% if you're listening to this, right? Most likely. You're probably not in that 80% if you're listening to this.
I think
Maybe?
so.
You
Yeah.
think?
Maybe my mom.
Do you think that the average person who's listening to this is already in part of this industry?
I think that's one of the unique things where, like, I think even for us, we've used this as an opportunity for us to find that 80% with the guests that we have. Obviously, you guys align very, on par with our like similar demographic. But I think even, not that it was like a forethought or anything, but I think now that we've had this conversation, it's more on the like tip of my mind of like, I think us, having a conversation
with Carrie,
like from Lush, that brings a different demographic of viewers to kind of like maybe find some appreciation within the podcast. And again, even for like your guys' demographic of people that, I'm sure you'll have members that have never been into a triad that might, tune in kind of thing. So I think there's a good amount that are going to be in our traditional 20, but like, I think there will be some that do fall into the 80 as well.
Yeah, I think we won't give ourselves too much of a plug, but I think that the repeating thing that we want to tell everyone out there is that we should all be exercising and we should all be eating kind of better. And I think that you don't have to take gigantic steps to get there. You can take baby steps to get there. You can take multiple baby steps to get there. So don't think about it as a 0 to hero approach.
Thank you.
And don't put all of fitness and all of the industry into a single box because there's lots of flavors, lots of variety. We're just talking about making some content around how, like, we love using the food analogy of like, if you think about group fitness is like pizza, right? There's tacos and there's hamburgers and all these things, and but inside of fitness and pizza alone, there's tons of different types of pizza. So don't just look at the industry like, well, all pizza is shit. And you're like, well, that's not true, right?
Yeah, right.
And the industry is the same way. So take your time and talk to more than one person and educate yourself, have conversations, and you have to have the conversations though. You've got to get up and you've got to at least reach out and you've got to talk to somebody and you've got to walk in, and you don't have to be forced to do anything wild, right? But you need to start having those conversations. It's going to make you feel better. You're going to thank future you, and don't put everything in the same bucket. So have multiple conversations, go into places, and you're going to find something that meshes with who you are, and you're going to be stoked when you find it, but you're only going to do that if you start having conversations.
Yeah. You got to find where you fit in, what you enjoy the most.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, it's so funny because this is an analogy that like just kind of came to my head, but it's like, and I think fitness is the same wavelength of this. Is it's like, you know, you don't go to a realism tattoo artist and ask for American traditional, right? Like you find something you appreciate and something you like, and you see the art and you see what it is, and you tailor that. You find an artist that does what you like, not just you are an artist, do what I like. It's like you've got to find the people who are doing what you want. And there is, within fitness, there is a place for everyone to enjoy and find something that they really do like. But again, like you said, you got to be talking to multiple people and finding what those kind of things are.
Yeah. If you had somebody come in and were like, I think I'm going to do a bodybuilding show. Can you guys prep me for that? Like, I mean, I'm guessing you guys would probably be up for the challenge, but like, how much is your structure, your system set up to be able to do this?
Yeah, we would absolutely say no.
Good for you guys.
Right.
For you guys.
And we've said no many times.
Yeah.
If someone comes in like, look, I love that for you, that's just not who we are.
Right.
And if you spend a lot of time and effort changing that, then you're taking away value, you're taking away the quality that all the members that do like who you are away from them. So by putting more effort into something to become something different. So
I think that just kind of like, again, sums up one of the words that I feel like we've used a lot, and that is like being intentional. And I think that you guys do a really good job of that. And like Kevin kind of spoke to earlier, and just to kind of pour some more praise on you guys, if it's like that intentionality and that autonomy that you talked about are the things that like create your gym, and not just your gym, but even more importantly, your culture is what is that, you know, it is very authentic. And like, and there's been a lot of situations or a lot of conversations that have come up even on this podcast where like, I think you guys have shown time and time again, and even in your responses, like even in that one that Kevin just talked about, a bodybuild, where you're like, no, we wouldn't take that on, it's because you guys do have that like intentional autonomy where you're like, that's not us. And as much as I would love to train you and I'd love to help you, like I'd rather you go get the help that you want and us do the things that we are doing. And so just praise on you guys, because one of the biggest things that I think all businesses go through, especially as they grow and they see their own versions of success, is sticking to the principles and the values that they believe in that got them there. It's not the, we saw a sign of struggle, so we're going to change who we are. We're going to start doing all of these, pushing all the, that's something that like I commend people for, because I know how difficult it can be and I know how enticing it can be. But at the end of the day, it really speaks to the character of who you guys are, of like, this is what we truly believe in. And I know, because we've said this a million times, and I know I'm speaking for you, but I'm sure it's the truth, if it's like, I'd rather fail doing it right than make it doing it wrong. Like I couldn't sleep at night that way. And like for me, and I know for Kevin, because we've talked ad nauseum about this, it's like, man, like my ability to lay my head on my pillow at night knowing that I did everything I could the best way that I could for everybody that I saw today is the thing that makes me excited to come to work the next day.
Yeah. That's why we tell people to go to try it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful thing of this is who we are. I'll tell you all about it. I'm pumped about it, and I'd be super excited if this was a good fit for you. But ultimately, we're not going to change who we are. At the end of the day, you got to take it or leave it. And I remember coming to that realization again, kind of part of looking at our competition of, them running sales and deals and discounts. And it's like, that's not who we are. That's not part of our structure. That's not part of our model. And this is our pricing. This is the products we offer. This is the service that we provide. And we do this because we feel like this is what we would want as a consumer. But at the end of the day, you got to take it or leave it. And we got to be confident with what we're doing.
Right.
So.
We'd have to be dishonest in order to give the discounts.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that I think like people don't always realize is like, we can't give discount, because we are selling it at what we are literally able to sell it at from the companies. And so it is like, the idea is like, it's enticing to like, oh, we've got this sale, like, oh, this big event or whatever. Cause like, buy one, get one, 50% or whatever. And it's like, we literally have to mark it up to mark it down. And we just can't do that. Like, I can't, my heart of hearts, I can't get behind that idea of marking something up 20% to mark it down 20%. Ugh, just drives me nuts.
One last thing I would like to share with you guys, because I think we've got a unique perspective and one that I'm excited to share as well is we do get to work with many people in the Oklahoma City fitness community, and we get to work with other gyms, gym owners, coaches all around the metro. And one really cool thing is I feel like everybody in the industry has a lot of respect for Prevail, because I think it's very obvious how intentional you guys do things, and how genuine and how confident you are in the way that you guys do things. And in spite of some of the shit talk online, I do think that there is genuine respect for anybody that I've ever talked to in the fitness industry
1000%.
that knows Prevail has a lot of respect for you guys, which is really cool. And again, excited to share that. So
Thank you.
Yeah, it feels good to hear that, because it feels like an island most of the time.
I can, I
can relate.
Yes, absolutely. So, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your evening and joining us and for the great conversation. It was really, really good to catch up with you guys. I know we've only gotten to have a handful of conversations in store, coffee jerks working together, but it was nice to sit down for a couple hours and really pick your guys' brains, because you run a phenomenal business from top to bottom, not just from the fitness aspect, but from the structure of the business as well. So really cool to hear from you guys. I learned a lot. So.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Us too. Yeah, we'll be back for Q4. So
we will definitely have to have you guys back on for sure. So,
what episode is this?
51.
51.
I like that number.
Yeah, episode 51.
51.
Yeah.
In the 50s now. We're old.
Tell you what, I feel it. I feel every bit of it.
Getting cold.
Yeah, right. That's right. Anything you guys want to add before we go? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Again, seriously, thank you both. This was awesome.
No, it was fun.
Thank you, everybody who listened, tuned in. See, it all disappears after a little bit. You lose the mic and the camera and all of it. It's just like you're just hanging out, just talking. So appreciate everybody.
Appreciate you guys watching. Check out Prevail if you're interested.
Yeah. See you guys.